Ish.
Where's the other homie?
He's on his way.
Cool.
He was picking up some supplies, from what I understood.
Who's on the way? Nichols?
Roger.
Roger?
Yeah, Roger. Anyways, welcome to episode 100 of Shenanigans. Strap yourselves in and let's get fucking weird.
Aliens on the border.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found.
Faster than light, spaceship of the future.
By direction of the President of the United States, stay in your home.
Is it human or inhuman? Earthly or unearthly?
Born in that swirling inferno of radioactive dust, there is no word to describe them.
We may be witnesses to a biblical prophecy come true.
Why is it that we usually ignore the fourth dimension?
Is this the human race of the future?
Aliens on the border.
Welcome to episode 100, a historic event in the Aliens on the Border lifetime. Yeah, we're live right now for everyone.
Wow.
If anyone that joins us on Facebook or whatever, hello. Hi.
My Facebook.
Yeah, we're a little bit behind schedule. That's my fault. I didn't get time to set up in the morning and leave everything prepared. But anyways, so before we even dive into anything at all, we were just talking politics, kind of, right? And I just threw some shit out there to Picasso. Hey, dude, welcome back. Actually, wait, before I even go any further, my apologies. Hi, everyone. And Roger is on his way. He's running late, so he'll be here in a bit. But anyways, today sitting in for episode 100, two very, very special guests, two of the people I respect a lot and I like having conversations with. Welcome back, Mr. Picasso. You guys may have recognized him from the early episodes.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, guys. Been MIA under a rock.
Under a rock. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Rick Matamoros. What's going on, bro?
Hey, how's it going? I'm still alive.
Yes. After, tensions ran high at the first ever Fourth Dimension Fridays, but we all survived. It was a fun event. We have one coming up very soon, so just keep your eyes peeled for that. But anyways, guys, so, yeah, man, the military-industrial complex, the establishment, all of that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things about the about our world that are, there's multiple layers in reality, right?
Definitely,
So right here we can show it in 3D. We're all sitting here at this table, but some of us came from work, some of us came from maybe school, some of us came from other places. That's part of the layers of reality, but we're all here. So understanding that we're not what we look like. We all have something behind us, another backstory. And my whole thing is that Tulsi Gabbard doesn't have the genetics. She's not a descendant of Eleanor of Aquitaine. She'll never be president. You have to be a descendant of Eleanor of Aquitaine in order to be president.
Now that
you have to continue the bloodline.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this before.
Yes, definitely. We've gotten into that type of talk to where the bloodline plays.
Every single one of them, except Martin Van Buren, the number 8 president, are descendants, direct father to son descendants of Eleanor of Aquitaine.
I think George Bush and Barack Obama are like third cousins twice removed or some weird shit like that.
Carrie and Bush
What did this chick do?
She was the single largest landowner of the medieval world. She is the mother of us all. Not our mother.
Perhaps. I mean,
but she's the mother of King John, the mother of King Richard the Lionheart.
She had the coin.
She's got the paper.
You got it. So King John is the guy that he signed the Magna Carta, which was the document that the people of England said they were no longer going to be ruled by a monarch. They limited the power of the monarch, so he acquiesced and signed this. Anyway, all this stuff is part of our history. There's a lot of things that that people just don't ever take into consideration.
For real, it's like we live in a society plagued by amnesia, where people choose to forget what or the events that led up to the current rendition of
take for example this expose that James O'Keefe did on Project Veritas, the Google expose that just came out. Google flat out denies it. They're caught on videotape saying these things that if we don't there's a Jill Janai, head of one of those fancy titles that means it's meaningless, but she's the head of something, a big department, wellness intervention, something like that. She says right on videotape that if we don't prevent another Trump situation, then it's over. So the Google, which is the biggest company on earth, is actively engaging in preventing people, Americans, from accessing information. Real quick example is if you type in on a Google browser, Joe Biden, TOU, it won't autofill for you like the word touching, or if you type in on the DuckDuckGo browser, it'll auto complete the
the allegations for all the stuff that he did.
If you go, that what's up, Roger? That lets you know that that everyone knows that means that people aren't searching those terms on Google. That's why Google doesn't even autofill that. But that's not the fact. If you go to trends.google.com and you look at the last 5 years of people searching those words, they're spiked on this year. They're spiked right now, and they're clearly going through the search engine, but Google is actively suppressing that content. And same thing that happened in 2016 with the Hillary Clinton body count, and how you couldn't find information about the people that the Clintons had murdered on Google, but you could find it on other. Same thing like with Obama in 2008 when there were, I think, about 4 homosexuals that were murdered connected to Obama. None of that came out.
And I'm super not privy to any of that, and I subscribe to some of that. And when I say subscribe, I mean like it's on my radar to a certain extent. Yeah. I'm not sure if I believe 100% that. And one of the things that I kind of wanted to come back to was the idea of the destiny of like the free world or the United States or whatever.
Presidents are never elected in the United States. They're selected. They are chosen by a group of elites that has dominated our society. And we've talked about this before when we go back into the 6,000-year-old people but it sounds too fantastic, and with the we have to compete with Thor and the Avengers. Yeah. So if I have to compete with the Avengers, no one wants to hear what I have to say.
For sure.
No one wants to hear it because it's not fun.
Yeah, and even at that, however, I'd like to say that with the advancements in communications that we've had and the amount of information that is out there, whether it may be the fact that Google is hiding some of that or not, I feel that ultimately, as a collective, there's more people that are waking up to the fact that the power is an illusion and it really does lie in our hands, right? So hopefully within this next presidential cycle, we'll be able to cede power from those that have been in control for the past whatever decades, millennia, centuries, whichever one of those oppressive timelines you want to subscribe to. And that's ultimately why I don't I understand where you're coming from, but I express at least my beliefs. They tend to coincide a little bit more with I have a little bit more faith in humanity in the sense that I don't feel that we'll fall victim to the same games that they have been before. And if you take a close look at what's been going on recently with Iran or what have you, it's very blatant false flag type events where they intentionally try to provoke Iran.
Iran is nice. It's so special because we have Sayed Mohammed Husseini, who lives in Anaheim, California, and he will be president of Iran. He will bring back the rules of Cyrus the Great. He will give Iran freedom of speech in a constitutional republic documented in the Constitution. He will give them a right to bear arms. But you never hear about Restart. You never hear about Sufi Islam. You never hear about Sayed Mohammed Husseini, who is the champion of Iran. You only hear about the Iranian Guard. You only hear about their fake Iranian reboot, which they try to steal from the restarts. Anytime when Secretary Pompeo typed in something on the Iranian official restart took over, immediately the media said Restart are a bunch of hackers and they are no one to look as credible. They are not credible people. So we know enough from our experience that when people start pointing and saying this guy, James O'Keefe from Project Veritas, is a non-credible source.
He's probably credible.
Probably, especially if Vimeo, deplatformed his videos. YouTube took off his videos. This has all happened within minutes, less than an hour of each other. His website, projectveritas.com, was delisted. You could no longer access it.
What did this man do?
He provided videotape footage of high-level Google executives saying what I told you.
Okay. He's the one that...
But he has done multiple other things. He exposed a lot of things. He exposed YouTube about 2.5 years ago when YouTube was saying that if you go to YouTube and you're looking for Alex Jones, we've delisted it. These are Google executives on videotape saying that Alex Jones is primary and enemy number one. So no one, me and Picasso were having a great conversation about President Polk, most racist president of all time. Ever heard of him? Most racist president ever.
Polk?
President Polk.
I mean, in passing, not like too much into,
totally
into like dying or
President Polk invaded Mexico. President Polk took the Mexican territory, 1845 to 1849. Surprised nobody ever talks about him. Most racist president ever. Even a little more than LBJ. LBJ was kind of a bad guy.
Strap in and take a ride on the wild side, guys.
Strap it in.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Roger.
Sorry for getting here late. How long have you been going?
Oh, fine.
8 minutes.
Okay, cool. Cool.
I'm sorry I'm chewing this. I don't want to chew on mic.
Yeah, chew on the mic.
How's it going so far? So far, so good. Everything's good.
Yeah. What do you mean? With what?
I haven't seen you since the other night.
Oh yeah, man. Everything's good, dude. Everything's good. Just been making moves, going to work, that kind of stuff.
You got that new job, right?
I do, yeah. I'm working with Learn Think Media, which is a local nonprofit that works on enriching Laredo's culture and arts for specifically filmmaking. Wow. So it's a lot of fun. I'm on the ground floor trying to get some money. So anyone wants to sponsor something like that, you're more than welcome.
Check
to.
it out.
But
check this one out. This is the ultimate. Bob Iger from Disney, CEO of Disney, came out and said, we will not film in Georgia because state of Georgia, not the country of Georgia, state of Georgia banned abortions. This has nothing to do with, I don't believe in anything. I'm not pro-life, pro-choice, anything. But Disney continues to film in Syria. They continue to film in Jordan. They continue to film in other Islamic countries where abortion is completely illegal. Not a word from the media. Not a word from Bob Iger.
Yeah, it's just fucking, fake outrage. Just let's stoke the flames, all that type of shit.
Getting some micro expressions over here. So some of us are up to speed. Some of us aren't up to speed. There's no shame because all of us are equal.
Yeah, no,
all of us are
and
the same.
Yeah, and we can get outside of each other's comfort zone, so it doesn't really matter. But one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about, and I don't know if you watched the whole thing or not, but
I watched some of it. Roger, did you watch it?
Mm-hmm.
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar, man.
Fucking Bob Lazar, dude. He was recently on an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. Now, for those of you guys that are not initiated and don't know who Bob Lazar is, he's actually the person that revealed the existence of Area 51 or S4 back in the late 80s,
yeah,
early
because
90s.
they're two different areas, right? But
yeah.
It's like all in the checkered board of Nevada.
Yeah.
Top secret.
And everyone knows what Area 51 is now. Fucking, you think UFOs, you think Men in Black, the fucking scene from Independence Day where they have that guy with the wiggly arms.
I'm totally not a UFO believer, though. You got to, red flag that.
Bam.
Oh, do you want my charger?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you have it with you? Yeah. All right, cool. Sorry, continue.
Oh, so anyways, so he comes on JRE, he describes his experience working at Area 51 where he was tasked with reverse engineering some sort of anti-gravity propulsion system recovered from alien craft.
That's right, because it's all, he mentioned that they're all compartmentalized. So his group, they were working on propulsion.
Specifically that one component of the entire
He got
craft.
that job because he randomly runs into this guy that, the H-bomb guy.
Yeah, so he worked at Los Alamos previous to his employment at S4.
Stuck a jet engine on his car.
Yeah, stuck a jet engine on his fucking car. And they were like, hey, you're that guy, right?
They were talking outside of the thing because he was attending a lecture. That happens all the time, though. You randomly meet people.
Yeah, for sure. Just chance chance encounters.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, there's a documentary out on Netflix and stuff that kind of details his account of his experience. A lot of people tend to say that the podcast was a lot better. I don't know. I didn't watch the entire documentary.
I haven't seen the documentary at all.
I was watching the first 10-15 minutes, but I fell asleep only because it was very, very late. It was very late. So I didn't like. I was just like, you know what? I'm dozing off. Good night. But anyways, dude, like, so the account that he tells or he shares like on the Joe Rogan experience is very, very interesting. You know, it doesn't seem. It seemed genuine to me. Like, it didn't seem like he didn't actually believe what he was saying, or he was trying to do it for like an attention grab or anything. I don't know. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was genuine, Josh. He seemed like a person that had been erased from history, man. You know, like
and he literally was erased
like
from history. Like, back when he came out and spoke about that,
Yeah.
they literally deleted his credentials from like MIT and Caltech and his work history with like the government and everything.
Haven't we spoke about this before on the podcast? Actually, I think with Nichols.
Kind of, not really. We
Or maybe
didn't
not.
really get too much into
Maybe
it.
we probably not as deep, but
we brought up the
L. Ron Hubbard, right? We talked about L. Ron Hubbard.
We talked about L. Ron Hubbard,
We talked
Aleister Crowley, and that other the rocket
Huxleys?
engineer. Fuck. What was his
which
name?
rocket engineer?
From
we're talking about the time that they all went to like some retreat, like a little forest, and they
to perform a ritual.
One of those lesser magic Crowley rituals.
Well, yeah. So what happened was, I think they were trying to make contact with extraterrestrial life for the first time, and they tried to do it with a
no, not even. So I don't know.
These guys are descendants from those super families that were put together in the 1700s and the 1800s. So these are the cream of the crop of genetics.
Okay, so tell me what you know about that incident where it was the first time that these guys went and they did a whole ritual, and they were disappointed because nothing readily happened. But at the exact moment that they were doing the ritual on like the other side of the world, I think for the first time ever, there was recorded documentation of a UFO.
Or unidentified
maybe. So real quick, we gotta
early 1920s.
Like we've talked about this before, Josh, you and me. The majority of sightings that we see now are man-made vehicles. The true extraterrestrial intelligence will no longer reveal themselves to you. You'll just feel them in an interdimensional link inside the magnetic field of your heart most of the time in your dreams.
Have you seen Love in Saucers?
No.
This is a fucking documentary you told me about countless times. I haven't.
You need to watch that shit. Have you heard about it too? No? Okay, so check this out. Love and Saucers is about this guy named David Huggins or something Huggins.
I never saw it. Just based on the description you gave me, I was like, I don't have to watch this.
He already sounds like cool, like Huggins.
No, here's the thing though, because if we're gonna get balls deep, this is something I can get balls deep on.
Yeah, let's.
So in this documentary, this guy, he is like 72 or something like that, and all of a sudden finds a journal, and in that journal there are multiple occurrences that he's recorded as a kid,
George,
since he was like way younger.
Told me about it.
Yes. George told you about it because
Yes.
I told him about it, and he was like weirded out about it because it's like he sees all these things, and at the time that he discovers them, he's an artist, so he starts painting his experiences. Because he, for whatever reason, he reads it and it's like a boom, like a jolt, and he starts remembering these things. Yeah. And as he starts remembering them, he starts painting them. And it got to the point where he's kind of like an impressionist, kind of like the anyway. The point is he paints like these things and he gets put up on
his style of art.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
he gets put up on in like New York galleries and stuff, and they record this, right. This story is fucking buck wild, and I swear, if you've got Hulu, go and check it out. It's on Hulu, right? But so they follow his story, and in that story, he meets an alien named Crescent, and Crescent approaches him in the middle of the forest one day with I guess her superior, which is kind of like a praying mantis, and the way they kind of talk about him throughout this entire time,
the crescent moon.
The way they talk about this the entire time, they kind of paint the praying mantis character as like her pimp. So because like she's there the whole time,
hey, you want to fuck
and
her?
They're looking for what's obviously have like some sort of objective, something to do, and he doesn't remember these things, and he realizes after a certain point that he has to start recording these events because he doesn't remember them afterwards. So he starts recording them over and over and over, and there's like different accountings of these things. And there at one point, he claims that he loses his virginity to an alien.
Yes.
To Crescent.
Yeah, believe me, I heard the whole report from George. It was fascinating.
So he does that. He does that. He
not my thing though.
100%. So he goes and he I'm sorry, it's fucking hilarious to me. He
discovers that he's fathered all these children with this extraterrestrial.
So as an adult later on in life, he's living in New York. He's studying art. He gets visited by Crescent, and Crescent is holding a baby, and the baby looks kind of lifeless. And he's like, "What the hell? Like, what's going on?" He remembers that the aliens, multiple female aliens, were basically milking him. That wasn't me. My shit's
I think it's over here.
The multiple aliens are milking him, and they're sharing his seed. And
he's out here getting all the alien.
Dude, yo, this guy paints some like super graphic stuff. And there's this one where he's literally like, he's standing there, and there's like a girl standing behind him, or an alien, whatever, standing behind him, and just like giving him a nice little tug into a bowl. It's super graphic.
Say it like you mean it, dude. He's getting jerked off by a fucking
milked.
alien.
He's getting milked, and he
into a bowl.
Into a bowl, yeah. And then he asks Crescent, like, "Hey, is that my child? Like, what the hell's going on?" And she just like disappears. And until later, it gets revealed he's allowed to cross into this portal. The portal just kind of appeared on the wall, and he walked through it and was in their ship, which was like fucking, above Earth, observing the shit, right?
Wow.
And
the humble abode of Ra.
He gets there, and then he touches the kid or something. The praying mantis dude is super pissed off at this point because he's like, he shouldn't be here. He's not one of us, and what is he doing on our ship? And he's like, "That's my child. Like, let me touch my child," or whatever. And he goes and he grabs the child, and that little lifeless baby all of a sudden like jolts up like electricity passing from him to the baby. So then the praying mantis is like, "I need you to come with me." And he takes him. He takes him, bro. He takes him, and you need to see the fucking artwork, because the artwork, like, as I'm explaining it with a little bit of like disbelief and humor at the same time. But his artwork is 100% serious. This guy's wife divorced him because of all this shit, and his kid is also kind of on the side where he's
his
like
real kid.
His real kid,
Earth.
like his human kid.
Not to say
child.
that these other kids aren't real,
right? His
it's
human
just
child,
one that
right?
We can visualize and understand.
His human child is like weirded out by him, like, "Dad's fucking aliens," and what the hell's going on?
So alien
the guy takes him. The guy takes him and is basically like a grocery aisle full of alien babies,
and they're his.
And they're all his, and they're all lifeless.
Yes.
And he just kind of is like, "I guess I gotta touch all these babies. Let's go." He just starts fucking touching all these kids and bringing them to life and shit. And
it's like a life-saving game of Bop It, dude.
Right, exactly. So this whole thing was fucking nuts to me. But what was funny, or not funny, but I had this conversation with Bruno Rendon, who is an avid believer that alien life is not here to observe, but more. And I thought this was really fascinating. But not here to observe, not here for any malicious intent, but they're here to get their souls back. Because what he believes is, or what he believes is the I guess. I'm not sure if he's echoing it. I don't think he came up with it himself, because it's actually kind of poetic. But he believes that this society was at one point human, right? And through, I guess maybe whether it's crossbreeding or whatever it might be, this advanced society, they got to a point where they were so technologically advanced that they lost their souls in the process. Right, and as they were doing that, they found a way. They didn't have any more way to like fulfill, right? Because you have to have some sort of fulfillment as like, finding meaning, deriving things from anything.
Thomas Jefferson, The Pursuit of Happiness.
Right. So
the individual is more valuable than the whole.
Right. So he's explaining to me that what they're trying to do is, in order to save their species, and not save them like we're going extinct, but save them from being all just mindless drones and soulless, husks. In order to save them, they're crossbreeding with humans in order to have that whole.
I've heard Bruno talk about this before.
Yeah, and he went into the whole thing about like star seeds, star children, like that.
Well,
that's the whole.
did you see that link that I sent you about where I said this is hard to prove whether or not it's fake, but it was the two humanoids with the three fingers, 11 ribs.
That's a part of the fucking Unacknowledged documentary on Netflix. So I remember seeing that.
The Unacknowledged has the Atacama humanoid, which was found in Peru.
True. But I've seen that video previous to you sending it to me.
I bet you have. But the
So
I don't believe in anything.
The video in question is like a recorded account of these two humanoids.
Yes, about like 4 feet, 3 feet tall, maybe about 3 feet tall, and then they look a lot like that 175-year-old Dynatoid. I mentioned to you the Dynatoid, which is on the cover of Life magazine in the 1950s.
We gotta reel it back a little bit, not just for our listeners, because my man over here. How you doing, bro?
Very confused.
I'm a Google Dynatoid.
Yeah, so the Dynatoid is the basis for the creature of the Blue Lagoon, and but what it is, there's a children's dinosaur magazine from not a book, a dinosaur book from children's book from 1985, back in the olden times when we had books, and this book shows an upright humanoid about 7 feet tall dinosaur man called the Dynatoid, and 175 million years ago this was the highest evolution of dinosaurs. They looked like us.
Oh, so then we're changing up the timeline. We didn't come from monkeys, we came from dinosaurs.
No, it's just a different species that evolved.
By the way, apes are different from monkeys.
Okay,
right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
The chimpanzees are relative than the monkey is farther along, right? So 8 million years ago we were split with a chimp, but 22 million years ago we were just one ape. So there was a deviation between 22 and the 8, and within that you have the monkeys that deviate, and the old world with the prehensile tail and all of these things, right? You've got the baboon and the spider monkey, all of these. Anyway, the Dynatoid is extremely fascinating, but these are 1,000-year-old animals, and they're from about 970s, the 980s, so they're about 1,100 years old, 1,000 years old, and they're small. So they probably hadn't reached full grown yet. But when you brought up the star seed and the star child and this stuff, these animals did have, they had our DNA. And they also had DNA that was not human.
Yeah.
So they
How
had
do you feel about
characteristics?
Octopus, dude.
Well,
octopi?
Look, I'm gonna tell you this so that we understand where I'm at, and you guys understand who I am, what kind of person I am. I only believe in one soul. I only believe in one being.
The string theory?
No.
Oh, okay.
I believe that there is only one being. That's it. So everything that we see is a reflection of this being. Everything that we see. So whatever age you are, you're 25, 26. You're
turning 27 next
there
Tuesday,
you go,
man.
26. So you are the perfection of that being in that form. But I'm 42, so I'm everything that being was at that moment when I was born. So all of us are a reflection of this. The table is a reflection of this. That's my belief system. There's only one being.
What would you call that? Is there like a...
Oh, there's a lot of people talk about that. Islam says there's only one God.
It's like source, yeah. Like that's what I was thinking last time when I was driving. I was like, it's source. And then I was like, what's like the most logical way to be omnipresent? It's like if he could, like I could see Josh and that's God staring at, and then you're staring.
I want to be able to see myself.
Yeah.
I want to find my soul. If there's only one soul, then we have a long way to go. Yeah. Because there's 7 billion people on the planet. So all of us, this is my belief system. It's not an imposition on your belief system.
The whole is more important than
or
the
on
individual.
his or on
I've always subscribed to the superstring theory thing. I always thought that we're kind of like taken from one consciousness, molded, and then through our own experiences we become like individuals, but realistically we're all kind of interconnected through down to the atomic level.
All of that stuff is great, and it's beautiful, but it all falls underneath the umbrella of one being.
Okay.
So we can find so many different avenues. Just like they used to say, the all roads lead to Rome. We can find so many different ways to express the beauty of the one being. Superstring theory, or the superposition theory, or even this Mandela effect stuff. Like, I have a videotape at home.
Dude, the Mandela effect's actually really creepy.
Check it out, though. I got a photograph of a videotape at my house. It says copyright 1981. Look it up on the internet. Everybody says it's from 1982. I have the picture. It says 1981. I went to the theater with my dad and watched it in 1981. Nobody, you can look it up. It's 82. So this is what we're getting into, that if Google, they're such a big company, if Google says so, you're gonna go to war with your brother. If Google says so,
the modern day
you're gonna disagree with somebody so badly because of what Google says. And I'm gonna go chop somebody's head off because I watched the movie in 1981 and they're like, no, it's 1982. You're stupid, racist, bigot. No, it's from 1981. I have the picture.
White supremacy.
White. Yes. Did you see Stephen Curry? His new Under Armour gear. He's got the OK symbol on his thing. But it's terrible. So we've come so far from Martin Luther King in the 1960s to now, and it's terrible because all of us, we physically look different from each other, but if we were to judge each other based on our looks, it'd be terrible. We'd all be bigots. But we're not judged based on our looks. We're judged based on our merits, but we're told by Google and the big companies, and now the debate starts now. The debate's going on right now. 20 Democratic candidates that are gonna.
That's fucking wild.
So these people are basing their policies on what I was mentioning earlier, outside of our, outside of the podcast, but I was mentioning identity politics. That's
for a fucking perfect example of that shit. Everyone that is thinking that they're gonna vote for Beto O'Rourke, his fucking dad stated that he nicknamed him Beto just to get the Mexican vote. His real name is fucking Robert O'Rourke.
Well, his dad's a billionaire.
Yeah.
His father-in-law is a billionaire here in Texas. Extremely wealthy guy. I mean,
it's more of the same bullshit. Corporate is fucking democratic. Just towing the line on whatever the fuck.
One of these days we'll get some. I'm starting a rumor. It's not a rumor. It's true. The founding fathers.
Oh yeah, I fucking read your message.
Founding fathers. So respect it, Islamophobes. Respect it. The founding fathers were actually Muslim. And Thomas Jefferson has a Quran.
See, what the fuck was I thinking about the Zion? I was just like 2 days ago, Zion and fucking...
Zionism or what?
Because there's a fine line where people will... You can really understand...
Yes.
You can really understand who is controlling our popcorn, pop culture society by the people that you cannot criticize openly anymore in so-called freedom of speech nations like Australia, Great Britain, Canada, New Zealand, places that have freedom of speech, but it's not constitutionally protected freedom of speech. It's parliamentary. So it's not in their written constitution like ours. It's in the parliament. So parliament can amend their rules subjectively. And the classes that we can't talk about are the immigrants from North Africa, or places like the Sudan or Somalia. We can't talk about people from the Sub-Saharan. We can't talk about the wealthy individuals that came from the Democratic Republic of Congo that may or may not have had Ebola that just passed through San Antonio. We can't talk about them. These are the protected classes. Toronto, California, Canada, Toronto, Canada. Yeah, Toronto, California. It might as well be California. Toronto won the NBA. The NBA, Toronto is the headquarters of Islam in North America.
Is that real? I don't know how real that is.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Well, I don't know.
Pull us some statistics.
There's more mosques in Toronto than there are in the USA. I mean, in big cities in the USA
predominantly Christian.
So
Catholic.
People used to tell me all the time that you want to know who's going to win the Super Bowl. You want to know who's going to win the NBA finals. Just look to see what commodity is being pushed. Look into the underworld and see what commodity is being pushed. Right now, the hottest commodity is people. And people that come from these African nations. Bill Clinton brought 80,000 Somalis in the end of the 90s to Little Somalia in Minnesota. Now we have a Somali congresswoman that married her brother and committed immigration fraud. Not one word. So
I mean, you were telling me about that probably earlier this week about Ilhan Omar.
It doesn't matter because
is that you're referring to?
Ilhan
Omar.
It doesn't matter because all of these things, none of this is going to help our people graduate and get college degrees. None of this is going to help Mexicans become better people. We have to fight for each other and ultimately give each other that respect that we're all here. We're in America. We're all Americans. So what we were in the past, that's one thing. But if you're here in America, you're as American as Uncle Jesse from the Dukes. And the Dukes, they were in America before America was America. The Dukes of Hazzard is about a group of people that, it's a fiction, but it's about a group of people that had their farm in America before America was America. And so that's a lot of us on the border. Picasso mentioned the 1700s. Laredo's from the 1700s. So there's people in Laredo that they've been Americans since America became America. And then there's people in Laredo that they were born in America just in their first lifetime. No one is less American than anyone else. And that's what we need to
and quite honestly,
drill home into this. And that's what these 20 candidates, they're trying to push on to tell you who's more American.
Probably. And which is why I choose to pay it no mind and instead would rather like shine the light upon
policy.
Even to that extent, like what is the biggest thing that is influencing policy? And, if I'm looking at the recent history of, the United States, it's the military industrial complex. That's the biggest thing that, defense contractors being able to like lobby, in turn being fucking pundits on TV and telling people like, yeah, we need fucking wars. Like, no shit, bro. If you work for the fucking defense company that makes all the weapons and shit, of course you're gonna ask for war.
Let's see. Who here? There's 4 great people here.
I don't see them.
40 million. Actually, we have a big crowd.
Yeah.
But which one of us can name the man that killed Osama bin Laden? Just 20 seconds. 19.
I don't know.
First, who can name the first female that was prime minister of an Islamic republic?
Probably you.
I know I can, but really, what's the...
Not entirely sure.
But
I get like
Osama bin Laden, he died in December 2001 of Marfans. But
my thing is,
that's what they say. That's what's reported. But he was murdered by Omar Sheikh.
Okay, and
Omar Sheikh was a dual citizen who was British and Pakistani. And Pakistan is the country where Benazir Bhutto was the first female prime minister. She was murdered after she comes out with this information about Omar Sheikh. So, right in December of 2001 on CNN, you've got an American general saying, oh yeah, 97% accuracy, Osama bin Laden is 100% dead. So they had 97% confirmation that he was dead, and they reported it. You never hear anything about it anymore. Never. 11 years later, you see a beautiful image of President Obama and his team staring at the screen. SEAL Team 6. We all know about SEAL Team 6. We all know about these people. They went in.
And then for some reason, they bury him like fucking Megatron in the middle of the ocean.
I remember reading that The Rock was like the second person to tweet about the murder, which is fucking weird.
Yeah, so...
Of Osama? My point through all of this is that this is the whole sleight of hand treatment that they're doing to all of us, right? So while we fucking nitpick on what exactly were the events that transpired or who was to blame for which false fucking flag,
the next bullshit.
Yeah, like we're already in the war that is levied by like these powerful bankers to try and corrupt or take over other nations that are currently independent, right? Like as we're currently fucking doing with Iran by being super aggressive and then being like, you're aggressive. Well, it's like, no, like, well, you know, as a country, we're invading their airspace with our fucking drones and shit, and they shoot that shit down. Like, no shit, they're gonna shoot that shit down.
Bombs on a bunch of innocent people, dude.
Yeah, they for fucking real. Like, it's pretty ridiculous. And again, I feel that the realization of the people at large to see behind the charade, which again, I feel the biggest threat to our way of life or society, if we're going to perpetually be at war as we have been, was exactly what JFK and Eisenhower warned us about, the fucking military-industrial complex, right? Ever since that speech that Eisenhower made on his way out, it's been essentially taken over, probably even before that, when Charles Lindbergh was like, hey man, you guys are going to crash the economy. How about don't fucking
I really feel like there's no way to stopping those wheels from turning. Like, they've been doing it for so long.
There is, though, because the illusion again is that they're the ones in control when they're really not.
Okay, so then it just comes down to like, well, whatever. I always just say when we're the old people.
You had it.
But then whatever there's right, but just how he says, if the truth behind all this shit is fucking families running all this shit, and they're loyal to their fucking family, they're gonna keep that shit going.
I think I can simplify it a little more for us. The simple truth is that all of us are an individual universe. We contain all the secrets of the universe within us. All the answers we need are inside us. We don't need distractions. Right. And these distractions, this amazing telephone, all of this tech, good jobs, all these things are distractions.
Because we're in here for one thing only. I mean, this is a cocoon and we're going to die.
And you've got Richard Buckminster Fuller in the 1950s is saying that we're all passengers on the spaceship Earth, right? And he creates a Dymaxium map and shows, he's one of the first people to show that the continents, the way they truly look, and if you look at it, it looks like a spaceship straight out of Battlestar Galactica, and it does seem like it could be a flat thing, just floating. But don't be distracted. Doesn't mean that I believe in the flat Earth. It means that we're on a. So Bob Lazar was talking about a gravitational device, and he was talking something that generated a gravitational field which is impossible. But according to the unacknowledged and even Sirius, he talks those two movies.
Dr. Stephen Greer.
He makes a distinction that in October 1953 we master gravitation.
Yeah.
United States, October 1953. 2 years later, everybody has a TV. And you probably know people in Laredo that like a TV. But in 1955, a TV was like, whoa.
The craziest
it was
commodity.
Like everybody having an
iPhone 10 or some shit,
So we're tethered now to a box that we're programming ourselves, and our children are being programmed. And so like last night I sent a text to my mom. She was talking about her watching Gunsmoke, and like, oh, I'm going to sleep, I'm watching Gunsmoke. I'm like, oh, is that the one with Lauren Michaels? And she's like, no, that's Bonanza. And so, I mean, these are TV shows that we grew up in, or if you grew up in the Otro Lado, you watching El Chapulín or something, these are TV shows that we all grew up with a TV. So all of us understand this. We need to divorce ourselves from these technologies, move into the monte. That's what big media companies don't want. They don't want us to take the power that we have.
You want the self-sustaining society.
Well, the self-sustaining society is already in you. It's the microorganisms that are living in you. For every cell that you have in your body, 400 trillion cells, you have 9 bacterial organisms that outnumber you, 1 to 9. So that means you have 36,000 trillion bacterial organisms, mostly residing inside your intestinal tract.
Your gut biome.
Your gut. So that's why most people, when you get the gut feeling, that's an interdimensional telepathic link that you're having with another being. So again, I talk about the one being. Science tells us that 4.5 billion years ago, one organism decided to split into 2. I mean, who does that? Like,
and
do you want to share?
Further back to like
you
want to
share your life with me?
It's a singularity.
The
and
answer
it's
is
not.
no. Like, you want to be your life. Like, so which one of us is going to give up everything that we are to make a new individual that's even more valuable? Because the individual is the most valuable. because we're going from a single organism to multi-organisms to back to a single organism. It's called the unification and annihilation principle. So we came from one organism. We're searching for our soul, right? I'm following you with this. I liked what you were saying. We're searching for our soul. These super beings from another, maybe we can call it another dimension or another realm. They're so technologically advanced. They're like us with iPhones times 10,000. And so they're plugged in. It's like the movie WALL-E. They're sitting on their little like sofa, and they're like 700 years later, the alarm goes off and they're like, oh, we found a planet. They don't even know what's going on. So that's the unity. We're billions of organisms, billions of galaxies, and we will come back together again. It's inevitable. But as we go along in this journey, it's important for each of us to sharpen our skills and to create a self identity for all of us.
The only like it's not even necessarily a counterpoint more than it is a question that I don't have the answer to, and that I believe is perhaps a question without an answer, is like, who is anyone to say what the way of life should be?
In America, all of us
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But like in the world at large, right? If we are all equal in the sense that we're all a human life form inhabiting the same planet, if I choose to not want to live the type of way that you're describing, where like, let's be super in tune with nature or what have you, then like, that's my right. Right. And
absolutely, if more people, 100%.
If more people come towards like that ideology, then, being able to tap into that source and channel that energy to where we're a little bit more in sync with nature versus at odds with it, will more than likely be, I don't know, impossible, right? Because of
it's not impossible. It's just think of it even in a simple way as like a fountain of water. You see the water, it's trickling like that. It's just boom, boom, boom. The water, it's a fountain. All of us have access to this fountain of water. Some of us take little sips. Some of us take gulps. It's all based on our own internal timer. However we've come to understand these.
The fruit falls from the tree when it's ready.
Sure. When we ourselves are ready to understand, we're going to see that.
And that's I understand that completely.
So the fountain's been turned on.
And what I'm saying is that for
individuality and the value of the individual, that's the key that lets you remove the veil. So you have to understand that the power is within you. We can't have a political party telling us.
Correct. And I'm on the same page as you.
I understand you are, but what I'm saying is that I'm trying to expand on these things. We can't have Google telling us that my movie's from 1982. We can't have precisely. I mean, these expressions mean everything. That he understands what I'm talking about. We can't have people telling us what to believe, and this is the only country we can do it. And if we give up that power, if we let people like name whoever you want, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, whoever you want, if we name one of these X of the 20, they're trying to limit our constitutional rights in whichever form suits them and whoever's paying their bills. We can stop that by taking a moment of our time on a daily basis, taking a moment of our time and reconnecting with whoever God you want to believe in, and just saying a little prayer to believe in God and give thanks for your life. And you see people doing that on Twitter, immediately their pages are shut down, or they're delisted, or they're censored.
Again, that's something that,
because it's not religion.
I understand
it's awareness, self-awareness, and your connection to the source.
But the ability for one's own self to be at like the highest level of self-awareness is going to be limited by certain factors that are exterior to the self, right? So, for example, the constraints that we've been placing upon ourselves as we progressively devolve into some fucking
Here's a
weird
constraint.
form of
I'll give you a perfect 3D example.
Hierarchy.
Here's a constraint. Cardiovascular disease does not run in the family. So if your dad has high blood pressure, you're not going to have high blood pressure. But ask any medical doctor. Hey, ask anybody. They're going to tell you your genetic history, your family's history is going to dictate what your outcome is. That's just pretend. but it's another one of those.
I mean, it definitely takes
beliefs.
it definitely takes a role in like the phenotype that you express.
Okay, check this out. Here's another one. People say you go blind by looking at the sun. I've never met anyone that's gone blind by looking at the sun. It's a conspiracy theory. Can you prove me wrong?
No, I can't, but that doesn't necessitate that it's correct. Though.
You want to go and stare at the sun together?
Not really.
You believe in that sun gazing thing or what?
Like dude, it's a fact.
Well, you see it in the morning. You see it in the morning when it comes up in the night.
No.
Yeah, but there's a
stare at the sun.
Oh,
you stare at the sun long enough, you're going blind 100%. It's a fact.
Yes.
But we've never met anyone that's gone blind. I've never met anyone that's gone blind.
No, but have you heard of sun gazing?
Oh yeah. That's something else that I wasn't talking about. That sounds nice, but I'm talking about. Can you prove anything that you're saying to me?
Exactly. Nobody can.
I prove
which
it?
is why I feel that like the smartest thing to say when it comes to these very, very like lofty ideas or very, very abstract.
Why don't we leave it to the founding fathers? They did great with the way they wrote our Constitution.
Yeah, they definitely did. They definitely did a good job in that, and it's definitely a vehicle for which to, propagate high levels of IQ, or I guess ability to perceive, right? Which leads us back to the same argument that I'm fucking making, to where it's very, very hard to make the exterior concrete because it fundamentally is not there. It's more of like a hologram than it is like an actual version of whatever.
I heard a story one time about a guy that spies on a guy in the middle of nowhere and sees the guy in the middle of nowhere can open a hole into the middle of nowhere. So he's like double in the middle of nowhere, and he reaches into the hole and then he gets food. And so the guy that's spying on him comes over. He's like, hey, you got to teach me how to do that. And so the guy says, well, it's real simple. All you got to do is make a hole in your fence big enough for your neighbor's chickens to walk through your fence and eat your food, but your chickens can't walk through his fence and eat his food. Once you can make that hole, then I'll come and teach you lesson number 2. So where does that leave us, man? I can't even wrap my head around how I can make a hole in my fence big enough for my neighbor's chicken to walk through, but my chicken can't walk through. So if I can't figure that out, there's no way in the world that I'm going to draw a circle in empty space, reach into the Sultan's bakery, and pull out
a couple crackers.
Make a door with a hinge, dude.
Sure. There you go. See,
chicken walk through, chicken can't come out.
You're more advanced than me, Roger. You're thinking it, but who knows if the man in the middle of nowhere would approve of that. The point is that we have to reach the level. Once we're ready to see it, it's there for us. Otherwise, I'd be breaking into the Union National Bank all day long.
Quick question.
Right? And taking money out.
Super left field. Why don't you believe in UFOs?
No, man, it's bogus. I don't believe in that. Because look,
wait, just to clarify a thing. It's not that he doesn't believe in UFOs. He just believes that those UFOs are man-made and not extraterrestrial.
Yeah, and then just to be even more specific, unidentified flying object. Mm-hmm. Somebody can identify, not me. So it's not unidentifiable to the pilot.
Okay.
But I do believe in the ones that are mentioned in the Sirius documentary and in the Unacknowledged documentary, the ones that are made of the special metal that we control with our thoughts and our heart.
The Black Panther fucking UFO, dude.
The machines.
Soft disclosure, bitch.
That when we still ourselves and we calm ourselves and we're in a state of
Let's talk about that, about being a fucking the event horizon for your own little black hole.
When we can finally achieve a state of being where anything you say to me isn't going to alter my blood pressure or affect the micro expressions in my face. It's not going to get me to think I don't like you. When we can achieve that state of where we are able to monitor the function of our ego, and we can separate it from ourself, then we will be one step closer to understanding how to drive these spacecraft that operate based on metal that is controlled by thought. And There's books that you can read that are commercially available that will teach you breathing techniques. Now I'm gonna go off on the side. This has nothing to do with UFOs, but Wim Hof, the guy that climbed Mount Everest, the Iceman, he talked about how 30 years ago in 1987.
These ain't shit, right? Ain't shit.
I don't know.
They're not so tasty, but it was nice to bring them in. I'll try one. In 1987, Wim Hof talks about how he's doing the breathing techniques.
They're cakes from the fourth dimension, just so you're aware.
He flies into he climbs up Mount Everest with just shorts.
Yeah,
and
just fucking
no oxygen. And this guy,
that's the guy. Is he the
that's
same
the guy
that
that meditates?
like in ice water?
Yeah, in ice water. Yeah, he's called the Iceman. Yeah. But what I'm talking about is he uses breathing techniques because we're mechanical objects.
That's the only way we can alter our heart rate and stuff like that. It's
we talked off the camera. We talked about your private life, and you're studying science, and you regard science and medicine. So we're mechanical objects. Yeah. We're biomechanical machines.
Yeah, for sure.
More parasites.
Well, I don't know. Now, are we? That's subjective.
In the experiences that we've had previously on these like psychonautic adventures, what was your like? Hey, again, these are cakes from the fourth dimension.
You're
just
lying.
so you're aware. No, I swear to God, they are.
Isn't?
Yes.
They ain't shit though. It's been like half an hour, and I'm. But you know what? Every time that I've said that,
I just tasted the fourth dimension.
Yeah.
But in any case, listen. We have to be able to. We have to be able to remove the veils, and part of that is being able to accept that we're not in charge. We're on a journey.
Yeah,
we're on a path.
I always said we're victims of circumstance. I mean, whatever, and it's not even that bad.
Well,
I don't.
So
the biggest leg up on everyone else.
Sure, but
I don't know why. I don't know what I did to deserve this.
It's fucking simulation, bro.
Here, the Theosophists from about 100 years ago, Rudolf Steiner and other people that created the Theosophical Society.
Till today, I freak out because I don't know, man. Like I got my 3 beautiful children, and I feel like I'm in for a big joke, man. Like I'm in for a big catastrophe. Like my life is too beautiful, and I don't know why, but I just thank God for it every day. And I say, before anything happens to my children, let it happen to me 1,000-fold.
Wow, that's nice.
It's crazy.
They're lucky to have you.
For sure, dude. And I feel that.
Well, let me finish just 1 second. The Theosophists talk about the 3 realities. So you've got the spirit world, the soul world, and the physical world, and we inhabit.
Wait, did you say the spirit, the soul?
Yes, I did, and there's a distinction. So the spirit. So once all physical beings, the Theosophical Society. I only read 2 of Rudolf Steiner's books. So, but once all physical beings expire, then all of us enter the soul world. Some of us get there sooner than others, our grandparents, our parents, whoever's died. And once all souls physically expire, once all souls lose the what they call their earthly desire, then all souls graduate and move into the spirit world, of which the Theosophists claim we can only discuss using words we cannot feel. So the soul is a physical entity that exists in 3 spaces. I'm not going to call them dimensions. I'm going to call them spaces. The space of the spirit, where the soul is the roughest component of the spirit, the roughest, the most coarse. And then in the soul world, the soul is obviously in its medium. But in the physical world, the soul is located on a tiny little spot inside our heart, where there's a few cells that create an electronic spark. People theorize that that's where the soul is located, right there on that spark. So the soul is visible in our world only in the form of a minute electronic spark that takes place.
The SA node.
There you go.
On a spot on the heart, where those cells are.
That creates your fucking.
Yeah, so it's like.
There you go.
Yes, so.
It's your pacemaker.
That's interesting.
So, we exist in multiple dimensions. Our body exists in multiple dimensions. Not a lot of us have ever had a teacher. So if you've had maybe somebody ever taken like a karate class or some type of Tai Chi Chuan class or any type of Asian martial art where you're taught to breathe. That's why I brought up Wim Hof, because his thing is breathing. He's been injected with toxins and they don't do anything to him. He breathes and it's nothing. So eventually we're going to get there. Eventually, people, by the time your little children have their grandchildren, maybe more people will have caught up. The good thing is that we have thousands and thousands of lifetimes to reunite with each other. Not one of us you're not ever going to meet somebody in your lifetime that dies and then goes straight to heaven, no questions asked.
I have a question, and maybe it's a little bit more like personal. But see, you talk about this with like
100% conviction.
Truth. Yeah, conviction and truth. Yeah. So would you say maybe that's like your form of faith that you put into things?
No, it's just it's just logical progression. I understand that.
Even if I may interject, just because we have like almost the same line of thinking with that point. Even if you're to follow the constraints that a scientific worldview would place upon the universe, and you follow the events that supposedly lead from the Big Bang up to now to the exact moment that you're currently in, that's the most logical fucking answer.
Yeah, because check it out. Look,
I don't know what you mean by that. What do you mean?
So it's like it's a general logical progression for you to, again, by considering these few things, right? So if we choose to adopt a scientific worldview, at the beginning of time or whatever this is, there was a singularity, which was one thing that was enveloped everything, right? From one moment to the next, it then separated to everything else. Right, so just by that one function or one, constraint that we're putting within on top of this perception of reality that a lot of us like to adopt, but actually don't even think about in depth sometimes, you're already stating that fundamentally at a subatomic level and probably even at a quantum level, you're entangled to all matter that has ever been and ever will be. Because we all at one point were the one thing.
Superstring. That's going from
exactly, and that's what I'm saying. So the ability for the mind to be able to affect and manipulate matter becomes less of a woo-woo thing when you think about it in those types of terms, because of its entanglement at a quantum level to every other piece of matter around it. Wouldn't you still have
to? From the singularity to now, there's still obvious limitations for the physical world, and wouldn't you say those kind of limitations you might not know because you haven't transcended into any of the other ones?
You're correct, Roger. Those limitations exist only to those who haven't gone beyond them.
Yeah.
So, let's say I've never driven your car,
right?
And you lend it to me. I go put gasoline in your car,
right?
I don't know where the gas tank is.
Okay.
I'm limited with my point of view. But then you think, hey man, is there something wrong with you? Because you've certainly driven a car before. Wouldn't you be able to put gasoline in the car? And I say to you, well, I don't know where the gas tank is in your car. That's a good example. It's concrete enough, it's short enough and meaningful enough that me not knowing where the gasoline tank is on your car doesn't make me unintelligent. It just means that I've never driven your car. So you don't have the molecular genetics that I do. So you've never driven my body.
Right on.
So your ability to perceive, just because you have eyes, just because you have a nose, you know the alphabet, it's not the same as mine. It could be less or it could be more.
Or just different.
It's different.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean unintelligent.
Well,
it just means that our ability to perceive is limited to the experience that we've had and the moment that we're ready to experience it.
Right on. So I was going to follow up with the personal question thing was, what if you're wrong? How do you even know from there? How do you what do you do when you go from that point?
It's called the divine utterance. So
it's like how you were talking about the thing about Hulu, like you saw it and then you have the facts to back it up. Well, I'm sure he's read up on a whole bunch of
Well,
stuff.
that's
Well, I
nice
mean,
that you
yeah,
think
yeah,
about this,
yeah. But think about it this way: all those people are still
Right.
tethered to the same.
We're all
everything
just
was written by
having
God.
a
Physically.
nice,
Yeah.
casual
Well, I mean,
conversation
okay,
with
wait,
each
It's
other.
like the Bible was written
So
by
you're
God.
telling me, okay? So then we're going into the topic of like, and look, I'm
remember-
hang on a second, real quick. I want to make this 100% clear, because last time I didn't want to like throw anything off. I am asking these kind of questions to understand, and if I'm like scoffing at something, it's more of like a personal, like I don't know, I guess
Yeah, like
bad,
you have your own
tick,
perspective
but
of
I
whatever
don't mean
reality
any
is.
disrespect by it whatsoever,
And
but,
I don't take any.
so the thing is, I'm thinking about. So maybe
I'm not offended by the things you say.
No, no.
if
I'm
that
not.
helps.
I'm not saying. I'm not pointing you out or anyone. I'm just saying because I'm
In
about
general.
to say some shit that it's. I personally don't believe that. So so you're going into the point of like astral projection.
If you want to think about it that way, right?
Well, I mean, because I mean, if we were,
I'm not.
let's just say it
Let
this
me
way:
I'm not.
you guys, you three.
I'm still talking about the car and the
No,
gasoline.
I've never asked for projected.
Okay,
or
no,
anything
I
like
mean,
that.
but what I'm saying is because we're going back to his point about oh hey, because here's what I want to do, just a little bit to make it a little bit easier to digest. Take me as somebody who's never fucking heard what you're talking
That's
about.
what I'm
that's
saying.
what I'm
That's
about
what I
to say.
said.
So
That's the whole reason
We've
I'm asking.
we've
this
all
kind of
driven a
question.
car.
So let me
Fucking
extrapolate that.
like sprinkle it a little bit. Give me some sauce.
Yeah,
I'm not
then from there,
gonna
'cause-
give you sauce. I'm just gonna give you like straight up my perspective. Right? This is 100% my perspective. I'm not saying it's correct or that it is fact. This is just the way I perceive reality. Okay. So if we take a look at what those words that we just threw out there,
Right. Yeah.
like what they mean, what is the overall archetype thing that they're trying to express? It's something that is like trying to fit a triangle into a circle peg or a circle slot,
Or
right?
if-
So it's obtuse to the physical perceptions or the physical ability of your 5 physical senses to perceive.
Yes.
Now, why do I say 5 and do I insinuate a 6? Is because of this. So again, following the constraints of a scientific worldview, if you understand that when an electrical current flows, it creates an electromagnetic field. We just established previously that your heart is creating an electrical spark in your body, thus moving back and forth an electrical current inside of your mind.
I was just gonna
That
side
is-
note here, just for a little bit of like entertainment value. There was one time I had a really bad trip, and I sat there one time, while all my friends were just like laughing and playing Wii and like doing their shit, I was outside sitting at a picnic table thinking, I'm just a bag of meat with electricity running through it.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Well, you see,
Like,
Roger,
do you know the first law of thermodynamics?
I freaked myself
Yes.
out.
yeah,
real
energy
bad.
cannot be
You know the
created
first-
or destroyed.
Yeah, it
right?
can only be
It's a
transferred.
transfer.
Yeah.
So it's
There
not
you
that
go.
bad.
So,
So-
we're a cocoon and we're
And then-
transmutating
Yeah,
all the time. The
Did-
praxis.
Let me continue on with this.
So
Yeah,
it's not that
yeah.
bad.
I didn't mean to
As long as
derail
you got
you.
some electricity.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't mean to derail
Okay,
you,
so
but
all right. So when there is an electromagnetic field present, it's like an extension of that one electromagnetic current. Right now, not only is that a thing that is generated by your heart, but in your mind, there is also electrical chemical signals that flow back and forth between neurons.
Completely
Synapses.
separate electromagnetic
Synapses.
field. Totally separate. 2 separate fields.
So now the ability for those to project this magnetic or electromagnetic radiation, I guess you can fucking call it, or biomagnetic
environment.
field.
There's gotta be a way.
The biomagnetic field, that is the extension of or the physical interpretation of how your soul physically manifests.
Check this out,
through
Roger.
those conduits and projections of
okay,
electromagnetic.
so
At-
you're
at,
talking. You're talking. If I were, if okay, if
Well,
I were
look,
to
look, hang on.
If
I
I were to
think I know where you're
break
going.
down what he's saying real quick
You
to
ever
like
heard
the
of the-
bottom vibes. You're saying you're giving off vibes.
Check this out. Check this
Yeah,
out,
bro.
Have you ever heard of
Vibrations?
something called the random number generator
Yeah, of
experiment?
course, RNG. Yeah,
The-
RNG.
so these experiments were done based out of Princeton University, and people are given at least that's where I heard of it. I read a paper about it. But so these subjects are told concentrate on it's 2 numbers, number 0, number 1, and the RNG will generate randomly the 0 or the 1. If the subject is told concentrate on the 0, the number 0 appears more often than the 1. Now, everything has to do with concentration. You like photography, right?
I do. Yeah, yeah. Photography's cool.
If you take a photograph without concentrating, is it better looking than the one where you concentrate and you put your whole heart and soul into it? Maybe it might look better, maybe to someone, but most of the time when you concentrate on something, you're going to put in more of your intention, the expression of you at that moment. So concentrating on something helps you achieve that goal. That's all I'm saying.
How do you
I'm not saying that there's and the way that we can prove that is by looking to the random number generator experiment. The data shows more times than not when people are concentrating on the number, that number appears. Have you ever taken time to notice the sounds that the computer makes and then sit down outside in nature and listen to the sounds that the birds are making and then wonder to yourself, those birds aren't using an alphabet like us. We're using a real primitive form of communication where I have to piece together words from 26 letters. But if we were like a computer, we'd be able to make sounds, and those sounds would contain so much information, an essay, a novel, a short story in one sound. And you see it in the internet, the protocols, where the handshake protocol in the old days when we would do dial-up and you would hear all the beeps and buzzes.
Let's go back to Cisco days in high school.
Okay. That's great. So you all understand that.
Yeah.
Birds make the same sounds. When the birds are chirping, they're not using 26 letters.
But
they're making a complete information download with each one of those sounds. Dr. Stephen Greer published sounds that he received from an extraterrestrial intelligence. Those sounds sounded a lot like the way the computer makes a sound. I heard them. And
I have a question real quick.
So, well, just to sum it up, words are the meaningless sounds that come out of an animal's mouth. So it doesn't matter how eloquent we speak. If, for example, we say, shh, everybody knows that we got to be quiet. I mean, come on. Like, I didn't ask us to be quiet. I went, shh. And like all of us, our expressions change. Everything, even your micro expressions are changing. So you're understanding a little bit of what I'm saying. You're processing it. And now you want to ask more questions.
It's not that. So while you were saying all this stuff and processing it, like there was a number of things that went through my head, but it's because I try to think about it more. And I guess maybe it's because I'm more, I don't know, like ground level to it. Like, well, I don't know how to say, because I feel like if you guys are like at that different point, what do you do with that information, man?
Well, you fucking affect your reality and create your own version of whatever your life wants to be.
Remember, the individual is the most important.
You're
so
limitless.
We don't go out and attack people because they don't have the same understanding we have. We don't go and assault people. We work with the tools that we have. And if all of us are biomechanical tools and we're the vehicles for these tools, and I never got to say, Picasso, that the Theosophists, they postulate that we ourselves, the infinite me, put myself in this position. So the infinite you, according to their postulate, the infinite you put yourself in this position, and the infinite you won't put yourself in any position that you can't handle. So if you get a broken leg or the brakes go out in your car, that's because you can handle it.
Think about it.
You're
dude.
ready to
handle it. You know what's
it.
crazy? So I'm gonna talk just a little bit on something that I think is a little bit more, I guess, something that I've experienced a little bit more. But recently, I've been you believe.
Well, it all goes down to your basic experience.
You believe
you have
in,
to feel it to see it.
Does this have anything to do with like synchronicity?
It has everything to do with that. That's what I told you: unification and annihilation.
So you know what's crazy? I was saying the other day. Actually, shit, it might have been today. Everything kind of fell into place really neatly, and sometimes I feel that there are more days that happen like that, you know. And
if you notice on those types of days, like the feeling is emanating from the inside of your own body.
Yeah, and you just like you feel good because things are just like falling into place a lot easier than usual, and things just kind of get more and more eye opening, and like it pumps me up, you know, like. The job thing kind of just fell into my lap literally like a week after I had been told that
But it's not like, if you think about the variables that go into that equation to where the job falls in your lap, it's not random at all. You know, like you've been doing stuff subconsciously to your exterior to manifest that towards
and
you.
in your dreams as well, because remember what I talked about the dreams. So our dreams is a neutral ground where we're all the same.
Off, yeah.
So
let's talk dreams, man.
Well,
I had a really fucking weird one the other day.
Well, again, I mean, Josh laughs because I don't believe in anything. So, like, I've got all this information.
It's.
I don't believe in the stuff that I'm telling you. These
and
are just the beliefs of others.
You're
I know
using,
this information.
You're using it like in that's like what's the semantics, man. I think is that the right word?
Well, what I mean to say is that our brain CPU is less powerful in our dream.
It's weird that you're using it in like technological terms that way.
It's the only way we can understand.
Brain CPU, because the CPU is literally the brain of the computer, like the way that's translated to.
The CPU of us is inside our heart.
Right.
The brain is how we operate. That's how I can communicate with you right here in the 3D world. But I don't need the 3D world to communicate with you.
You were to do.
It's inside my heart.
I thought it was the other way around. So you like, how do you? What do you do with all this information, Rick?
Man, you just be.
You just be. You can only do what you can.
Because like the reason I say is because like like me personally, like I find a lot of like fulfillment from helping others, and I found a lot of fulfillment with allowing others to express themselves more, like creating a platform, giving something like, you
were like national champ, national champ,
yeah,
right? I mean,
and not national, dude. I wish, fuck.
State, but
no, I don't think
George told me some cool stories about you.
Yeah.
like that movie, that Denzel movie.
It was. I don't think it was state.
Freedom Riders.
But I mean, whatever. So,
but what I mean is that you have a way of speaking, and you can relate to people. But you've seen,
what's weird? I've always been real fucking good at that, but I don't know where it comes from.
You've seen what happens
at what?
when I open my mouth in public.
Singing?
You've seen it with your own eyes.
Oh,
you all have seen it.
I heard you.
What happens? So what I do is, you ask me what I do. What I do is I stay to myself. I keep to myself, because the minute that I show somebody something that's on my level,
you open up Pandora's box.
It hurts.
Why do you think? Why do you think that is? I've never been hurt.
Not you.
It's the only thing is,
about you.
Like a lot of it's
talking about people in the public. I'm not talking about the people that are on the panels that we sit together on, that we're colleagues.
Right.
I'm talking about the people in the public. They're surprised at things that they hear. It's there's no Twitter terms of service here in my mouth.
You know what's interesting to see is that I feel that because of your own personal path, you don't understand how asleep some people are, right? Because
you said I inadvertently woke up.
Yeah, man. Like, think about the people that you hang out around with you, right?
Oh, I can tell you, like, and this is gonna sound really, really conceited, but there's a lot of the times where it's like, people will tell me, and it's funny. Here's going back to the synchronicity thing. Last Thursday, right? Last Thursday was massive. We had the mic drop happen at Cultura. It was like the third or fourth one.
Oh shit! Tomorrow there's another one. Everyone go. Let's have some fun.
There's one tomorrow.
Don't miss the debates.
Yeah.
So these things. What I was getting to was that we had out of towners come in, right? And what was funny is that like these guys were like, How the fuck? Like, how is it that you guys have something where it's like a community that's so like in like supportive towards something? And I was listening to what she was saying. She was like, you guys have a crowd that's supportive. You have comics that look like they love what they're doing and they're working together and looking super like nice and fun and everything. You have a place that supports the things that you do, and you've got like a decent following of like people who are having genuine fun, right? And nobody that's just like shitting on stage or anything like that. And I think, it was not anywhere like that. Like it literally took a month of me like putting it together and
and think about it. Like
that's exactly what he just said about every single small accomplishment that you achieve is leading you up to the moment. So Josh talked about it. You know, there's so many examples in history about it. I remember one time when George wasn't your friend, and he said, "Hey, look at that guy," and I said, "Oh yeah." Why was he pointing you out,
dude?
Why was he pointing you out?
Actually, it's kind of creepy, dude. Because George and I actually talk about this a lot.
Hang back for a second.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that there's a metaphysical presence. You and he were drawn to each other for
like
some. Yes.
JK.
But not that way at all.
Not romantic
kindred spirits,
lovers,
but you're drawn to each other for a reason. Perhaps maybe the same way that
fucking having a great ass fucking friendship.
We're drawn to each other.
Exactly,
dude, it's a fucking bond, bro.
I drove by a house in San Antonio on a street, and I said, "Oh wow, that house is for sale. Too bad I don't have a job. I can't buy it. I'll never be able to go into that house, but I really want to go in there." And then a few weeks later, a professor invites me over to his house for a party, and I get the address, and it wasn't GPS back then, so we MapQuest it, and then
fucking house.
It's that house, and I'm like, holy shit, it's his house. And I tell him the story about, hey, I fantasized about coming to this house, and I lamented not having enough money, and I wouldn't ever be able to be here, and yet now you invited me here.
You say mind over matter kind of stuff.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about the random number generator. We're talking still about the gasoline in the car. You're not going to call me unintelligent just because I don't know where the gas tank is.
Yeah.
You can't, because we're the same. Mm-hmm. I just don't have the eyes to see the gas tank.
Right.
You can't hurt me for that.
Yeah.
You can hurt me for any reasons you want. But if you take advantage of my lack of understanding, you're devolving.
It's weird, man. Like it's
you're mentally devolving.
I guess here's the thing.
Going
I guess it's not so much that I don't believe in any of this stuff, or
I don't believe in it,
or that I don't look into it or anything like that. I think it's just that I'm fairly satisfied with things just taking their course the way it is or the way it has been, and I think here's the reason why I say it, and it's just my worry and any and all, and for whoever's listening that knows what we're talking about, for any and all conversations that you and I have had, and there's times where it'll get heated. It's more because I think the thing is that I don't like living in fear, and it's not that those things that I hear give me fear, but I worry that they're gonna scare someone else. And when they do, when those kind of thoughts, I find them more damaging, and I look at more like fear mongering kind of stuff, because I feel it'd be disturbing the peace of someone else, and I am so usually at peace, with the exception of anxieties that I have, but I'm so usually at peace that it bothers me thinking people that are listening to whatever it might be, that they're not at peace. And it's weird, man. I was talking to George about
being awake does not mean that you're at peace, bro.
You just proved my point. The minute that
that's what I'm saying.
The minute I open my mouth in public, it's all bets are off, because I'm talking to people like him,
also,
like you and him.
If I may interject,
but if there's an audience,
kind of come back to one of the original points I was telling you about,
that hasn't had these conversations, it isn't part of the continuity of the Pizza Hut. They're not part of the continuity of the Boogaloo. If these people aren't part of the continuity, they're completely clueless. They're gonna get offended. They're gonna get their hearts turned out. They're gonna love it. They're gonna want to be on my team.
Just to reel you in just a bit here again, when I was saying originally was because of the path that you're trying to lead, or at least from all the actions that you've taken, my perception of who you're trying to be or the dreams that you're trying to accomplish, right, are in my mind. You obviously, I don't know if you obviously want to be a comedian, but comedy is working so well for you that I feel that that's what you're pursuing, right? And you're putting your concentration into that, right? And now through you being a comedian, it's brought other shit towards you that you're already naturally good at, right? For example,
I've only been a comedian for a little bit.
That's what I know. That's what I'm saying. But
you trained in high school as a debate practitioner,
right? Well, I mean, okay, so
you weren't training, medical school.
Let me just get my point across. So anyway, so what I'm saying is that your ability to see what you want to do and go after it, and even if it's not something that is part of the general outline we've all received growing up, your ability to be like, you know what, I can actually fucking do that, and going towards it is bringing all these other people that share a similar mindset to you, right? Like, for example, myself. I know what I'm trying to do, and we're working hard, both of us together even, with trying to make shit a reality, right? So because you're doing that and you're outputting that sort of energy into the universe, it then reflects it to you with the people that you hang out with. So whenever we have like these types of conversations, it vibes or it jives with everyone available, because for some reason we're all able to perceive more or less the same version of reality right now. The reason why you may feel a little bit, iffy about going into certain topics that may very well be uncomfortable, or if for all other purposes, I noticed that one of the main things that you like to stay away from stuff that is like politics, in general, conspiracy theory, unless I fucking drag your ass along, which is always fun. But anyways, so or at least me, with what I'm trying to do with these types of conversations, is fucking pierce, dude, through the painful reality of this weird matrix that we've been born into. And I say that and when I say matrix, I mean like this version of reality where a human has to be subjugated to coveting or wanting, a financial gains.
Unearthly desire.
Not necessarily unearthly desires, but just the way that they've rigged this version of society to be detrimental to those that are not already born with status, right? Like if we...
Oh, shit, I got it. Okay, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
right.
It's so weird because this thing just kind of like clicked on me just for a second, what you were saying right now, and I had one of those moments of like...
Yeah, and again, what I'm trying to do is cut through that bullshit and be like, dude, you in the cubicle, because I'm that fucking guy in the cubicle.
We all
you
are.
You can fucking get the fuck out of that and do what you want. That's a fucking reality.
It shocks me so much sometimes, man, where like some of my friends will say like, man, like I got a job and I've got obligations and responsibilities and rent and all this other stuff.
And I'm that fucking guy.
They say like I have all these things to do. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you get out and do all these other things. I'm just like, I have a job. I had a job for a good while too, and it wasn't necessarily a super demanding job, but it did keep me, at work most of the day. It was like 10 hours pretty much, and my days off were weekdays, and it was just like really weird time. Weekends are like, you guys, not you guys, but the people that I'm talking to today, they have like 3-4 day weekends, and they don't do shit.
There you go. Those are the types of people I'm trying to get to.
And what's weird is that like, I think my epiphany, if I may, just to say it a little bit while you were saying that. So what I guess the point is to not become, and this is just super, I guess whittled down, but to not become another cog in the machine.
Well,
depends what type of machine you're trying to be a cog in.
Okay, so not be a cog in the machine, a money making, brain dead machine.
Listen, I like where you're going,
to a certain extent,
but it's impossible.
It's a little bit more nuanced.
It's impossible to not be a cog in the machine in the physical realm. Where my body is a machine. So I myself, I'm always going to be a machine. Now, what you're talking about, you're specifically referencing maybe the Metropolis movie, or from the 1920s, where we're talking about man and machines, and I got a job, 18-hour days. I understand what you're saying. I'm elaborating. You're right. We have to push to go beyond just an 8-hour workday or a 10-hour workday where we just get home and turn into a mental vegetable and just flip on the tube.
Right.
We have to engage in extracurricular activities. We have to go outside and spend time in nature, at least 2 hours a week. We have to find some time to worship a higher power. You want to go to church on Sundays, you go to synagogue, anything you want to do. We have to do things that are tradition that people have done for thousands of years on Earth. We have to engage in these behaviors as we push forward to that unity point. It's going to take less time. So Josh talked about how these overlords are ruling class. It's going to be more easy for us to break out of the chains as we go with each generation that comes through. So children those of you that have children, you probably see like, oh wow, my kids are They're understanding this faster than I understood it. Time flows faster. It doesn't go slower. So things get faster and faster as we get older, and the people become more adapted because we're making the metaphysical and subconscious changes around us. We're creating this reality, whether you believe it or not. Just like Morpheus in the Matrix said, is that air you're breathing? I mean, come on. Like, I made a rap song after the fourth dimension thing about how I'm breathing water, you know, and like when I do the bathroom, flowers come out, and y'all better respect that because that's what I believe. So I believe that I'm breathing water. You guys know me. You know I'm a college educated, smart dude. But what are you going to do if I tell you that I believe I'm breathing water and that my caca is flowers? What are you going to do? I mean, come on. Like, nobody cares. Yeah. But do you understand? Words don't mean anything. Yeah, it's our intention, how we project ourselves to others. If we dominate somebody's psyche and we don't let them grow and flourish, we're never really gonna, you know, we're gonna be here a lot longer than 1 or 2 lifetimes. And the Theosophists say that if we're talking about these concepts, we've already passed through 2 lifetimes. So you have to pass through 2 lifetimes minimum in order. This is the postulate. This isn't me, man. Don't look at me like I'm the bad guy. But this is what they say, that we have gone through these life and death cycles. You know, the other day the little kids came to my doorbell and they rang the doorbell and they're like, there's stuff in the water that's going to give you cancer. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, finally I'm going to die. You know, I mean, death is the vehicle.
I wanted to say something real quick.
Death is the release.
But
seeking it. Without seeking it. I mean, I'm not going to go to the Maverick and rip it off to get killed by cops.
I got this little bit of like a weird little like story in my head. And I think it's, I don't know, tell me if you guys would like believe this story.
Lay it on me.
Let's say it was something like this, right? Let's say there was a kid. Let's say there were the first humans on Earth, right? The people who started breaking through those chains, and there were some that went the route of like breaking other people's chains, and there were some that went the route of keeping them in the chains for their own benefit. So there's still the unbroken, or broken.
There's an ancient Arabian story about the old villain, and the old villain was tasked with teaching children, and so the old villain is teaching the children, one group of children, this generation, he teaches only thing that matters is logic and reason. The next group of children, the next generation he gets, only thing that matters is emotion and how you feel. Logic and reason is meaningless. So he keeps the 2 groups of children apart from each other so that when they grow up, the old villain's real task is teaching children that the only way they can learn is by learning on their own. So it's not logic and reason, and it's not emotion. It's intuition that teaches you that you have to teach yourself. That the only way you can actually truly learn is by passing through the experience, by putting your hand in the fire. You're never going to get burnt again, I guarantee you. You stare at the sun and you go blind, you're never going to do that again. So we have to be able to divorce these concepts of logic, reason, emotion. Those things are meaningless. The only thing that matters is what's in the middle, which is our intuition. I wanted you to be here. I really wanted to talk to Nichols, but I wanted you here. Did you come here because I wanted you here? Did that change anything? Is it the random number generator? Or is it because Nichols couldn't be here? I mean, it could be a million things.
Nichols couldn't be here.
Really, I wanted,
we would have 5 people.
I wanted to see you. Me. I wanted to see you in 3D. So what does that mean? Does that mean that I affected this world because I wanted to see, I'm not going to say your name on the air, but I wanted to see you? Does that mean anything to you? I mean, I'm not saying that I'm thinking about you, but what I'm telling you is that I wanted to see you. He told me Nichols was going to be here. All my heart wanted was to see you.
This is weird.
So what does that mean? I mean, come on. Like,
yeah, it was, I think the whole thing,
it is meaningless.
With the consumption thing, I think that's what it is, man. I have this whole like feeling towards like you rigged the game, man. There was supposed to be a game at some point. This is the way that I think about it, and this is not any sort of like hippie thought, but at one point, the way humankind was progressing, as people were getting more and more, I don't know, enlightened, they were getting to the point where it was a community thing. There were people who were doing things for the community. Then at one point, that in that string of people being like woken, people waking up, when they got to the little path, it kind of like split up, and people went one way and were like, we're going to continue doing things for, you know, philanthropic reasons, right? And you're going another way to do things for malicious reasons or for your own personal gain. Right. And you're going to have people who realize that, and instead some people will run and some people join, right? And as that happened, humanity kind of went into this huge divide of people who are currently trying to like break that system of people who are exploiting, right? And there's other people who are looking to just help the ones that are currently stuck in it, to help them escape.
Okay.
And I think maybe that's why I've always had this like feeling of like just like disgust, and it's funny you guys like mention these things, and I actually really appreciate like having these kind of conversations, because they do at the most, I mean they do kind of wake things up. I mean, I was just talking about this the other day with George. In the next coming week, and you may not know, I'm sure I've spoken about this before. I know we definitely haven't talked before about this, but next week is not only my birthday, but it's also the week, the year anniversary of it'll have marked a year going by of my dad being told that he's going to be deported, right? So I was sitting down, I was thinking about this just right now, and I was kind of like shit. I had said that I was going to do something at some point to help my parents out as much as they could, but I was also in this area where it was like I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I think I kind of abandoned the thought of like doing something that I could blend both of those, like artistic side and, you know, side that wants to, I guess, nurture or help my family, right? And I just realized right now, I was like, dude, I haven't done shit that I had said that I was going to do. And so I'm planning that whole like thing. And this is just a call to anybody who happens to be listening to this, because I do want to announce it here, but I have an idea, and it involves a photo series that I took of my dad when I was across. And it was basically my dad sitting down in a chair, holding my dog, and seeing the background, which is his house, of this area that's just like completely, you know, torn up. Did you see that too? Is we still good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. And what really bugged me was that I saw like the house that's just tearing down, falling over. My dad sitting there, tears shedding from his eye, holding my dog, who was just, they were both in a way more comfy environment. You know, we had our house, and I was thinking like, I have a picture that's almost identical to this, of him sitting in the living room in the exact same position with my dog, and he's like laughing, right? And this is
fucking powerful.
And so there's a little concept that I want to do, and it was, and I'm looking. It's titled kind of cheesy. I think it's that I want to do it called "Wish You Were Here," right? But the reason why I want to do it is because I want to paint. I can't paint. I want to design, because I think I'm getting way better at design, by the way. But I want to paint my dad sitting in that chair, and in the background in postcard letters saying like, you know, "Wish you were here," right? And I want to work that whole series to be a series for Laredoan artists to contribute. So I already asked George to do it, I asked Diego to do it, I asked Mauro to do it, I asked Gil Rocha also to do it, because I wanted their iterations of that image to be put up, so it's basically translated to the talent that everybody here in Laredo has, or those artists that I've mentioned, and at the same time giving that message of like, hey, dude, this is a reality, and we're living so fucking close to it. And I was kind of like always disconnected from that, you know, because it's just like,
it's just there.
Yeah, disconnected from there, what?
But it's okay. So I had mentioned this before, and I don't want to derail the conversation, so we'll get right.
It doesn't matter. The
yeah.
subject is free flowing, bro.
So when I saw my dad for the first time, I'll tell this story just because, you know, hey, I have a fundraiser actually going on for my dad for my birthday, and it's just to help them because I have some good news. Whatever, we'll just go this way. I had gone across multiple times, and it's so fucking dumb, and I hate myself for thinking about this, but the only thing that I would see as a kid was how little material possession they had. I just thought they must have it fucking bad because they're sleeping in a concrete house on the floor, right? I thought to myself like that must suck. Look at how unfortunate they are, right? And then when my dad was deported and I went to go see him for the first time, I saw my dad. I saw my dad. After he'd been deported, he didn't have anybody who had reliable transportation, and if the ones that did were at work because they have reliable transportation. So my mom called me and said, "Hey, we just got news," and this is the way they do it. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but at facilities when they're gonna deport people, they don't say, "Hey man, we're gonna deport you. Call your mom. That way they can pick you up here at a cross or whatever." They don't do that shit at all. They say, "Hey, you might be deported today or in 5 days, but just letting you know." And then it's like your family's never gonna know when the fucking moment is because right when they ship you off, you don't have any sort of notification, you know. And what are the chances that they're gonna call you and notify you about these kind of things? So my mom calls me because what they did in the facility was my dad was friends with some of those people. You spend enough time in a place like that, and my dad's always been a kind-hearted dude, made friends. And so one of those guys was like, "Hey, don't worry, when you go, I'll call your family. Leave me the number and all that kind of stuff." So that guy calls my mom. My mom calls me, tells me I need to go across to go make sure I can pick up my dad. And they give you a window of like 3 or 4 hours, man. So basically for 3 hours, I was like circling the area where, because I didn't even know the exact area because there's no one sign that says like, "Hey, here's where we dropped them off." It's just an just area. So I was circling around for the longest time, and the first time that I saw my dad was in the middle of the street, and he was so scared, and it was the first time I ever saw fear in my dad's eyes. And I just looked at him, like looking around, and then it was the look of utter relief and that feeling of like you caught somebody in like a familiar face, in pure fear. And then my dad turns around and sees me, and the only thing he had with him, dude, were sunflower seeds. So I thought to myself, I had the worst realization as a human being. I thought to myself, dude, like, I was growing up thinking that material possession was what made these people less fortunate. But I just saw my dad, who's been losing all of his material possessions within the last 4 or 5 years, fighting this case, and I never once thought he was less fortunate. I see him now, and I recognize now that he feels less fortunate, not because of the material thing, but because he lost his fucking family. I mean, he didn't completely. He didn't lose his family. He didn't completely lose us, but he lost the ability to live with us here, and he felt like
this is fucking bullshit. If you ask me.
Yeah. So that was the whole like. I don't know. That was the whole like disconnection for me. The first time that I was
one of the things that I feel helps, dude, is that like the more that we're able to talk about that, maybe we should look for other people with similar experiences, right? To kind of.
So the plan is, man, if I may, the plan for one of Heel's projects, which he wanted to kind of mention. I'm not going to put all that stuff out there, but it involves like recollection of people's stories. So. Hopefully it becomes a whole thing, but
well, that's a really nice story. I mean, the way you talked, the way you said it, like, I don't know your situation, I don't know what you're going through, couldn't imagine what you're going through, but I can understand that sensation of relief of being a stranger in a foreign place, and then meeting a familiar face, a relative, and then feeling that like all that disappears, and like you feel that like joy of like, oh wow, like, so all of those things that you're experiencing, it's part of like what he was saying about how every micro experience, every small thing you go through leads you to this. So maybe 20 years ago, you might not have, well, 20 years ago, let's say 5 or 6 years ago, as a young man, you might not have had the wherewithal to be able to tell this story the way you did, but based on the experiences that you've had since 2013 or 6 years ago, you're different. So you're feeling different. You can tell this story now, and you can see from somebody like me, a stranger, that the best part of that story is that relief of being in a different place and then making that connection. That's more important, dude, than loss or this, and this guy's telling you that you haven't lost your family. You just, they're just separated
by
a little
fucking
bit.
arbitrary rule that doesn't, I mean,
by the terms of service of Twitter,
of
the Twitter of the United States, right? So there's some law, a man's law, that separates you. But God's law is a little more powerful than man's law. Couldn't we all agree on that? Depending on whichever God we believe in, there is something above man's law, right?
Cosmic law, maybe, if you want to.
If you want to believe in cosmosis or that kind of stuff.
Cosmogenesis. No, but like the with that specific topic and immigration, it's just somewhat baffling. Like, yes, I understand that there definitely is probably individuals, that are not the best people, right? That have bad intentions or what have you. But fuck, man, like the type of story that we just heard from Roger is like something that's all too fucking common, where he didn't really share the backstory, but the whole entire reason why his father was deported is pretty fucking bullshitty. And
well, I don't even know it, but I'm guessing that he was probably a law-abiding person. You don't even have to tell it, but that's how I see it, because mostly it's the law-abiding people that get in trouble.
It was envy that put him down.
That's
literally what it was. Like
because if you hear about those stories of people coming across the border 7 times deported, they've DUIs, they've killed people, they've gone to jail 18 years, and then these guys, that's not the story that we're talking about here. That's not your personal story. Yeah. Those aren't law-abiding citizens. So it's usually the people that obey the rules that get punished. So we have to factor that into how we develop our understanding of rules, laws. Should we follow them? Should we not follow them?
About social contract now. That's very philosophical.
Yeah, and to bring it back to like a more fucking like ground level part of it is like where if we have the platform, then the more that we talk about it, the more that we'll have to influence the people that are ultimately expressing their opinions to policy.
I just gotta say, how's your dad doing?
A lot better, man.
Right?
So
okay.
like
sorry, man, but it's like I have a friend who's my age, and he got deported. Like, he lost his mom like when he was like a young kid, so he's never had a mom or a dad. He's always grown up with like his cousins, like raising him, and he grew up here in the United States. I went from elementary to high school with him, but he's not a U.S. citizen, and the guy got deported alone. Nobody, because how your dad had somebody to see, he had no face to see. Nobody until he got a Facebook or something. Right now, today, he's up on his feet. He's working for he took the advice of using his bilingual capabilities to his advantage, and he's in a good position. He's like in Tijuana now, and he might even be able to like they're starting a new agency. He's gonna go to Canada and stuff like that. It's going great for him. It must have been scary. And I'm not shitting on your thing. I'm just trying to give you relief as a father talking to a son. I'm a father to 3 kids. If that ever happened to me, as scary as it is my responsibility as a father to make you feel at ease.
Yeah.
And I hope your dad's doing that, because
you
shouldn't feel like, because I feel like you got like a burden on you, bro. You shouldn't feel like that. You're fighting a battle by all means, you're doing great for them, but you shouldn't hurt yourself, bro. You're doing great.
And then don't forget about
don't forget that your dad is also a man capable and willing. It wasn't great too, bro.
It wasn't so much about my dad, man. It was about me and the way I was perceiving things.
And let me complete one more thought. Let's say when you went across and you saw your dad, he was like in a nice place. Well, then you wouldn't have been fretting so much. At least it opened up your eyes. What about the people that live in poverty every day?
Yeah.
You know, like without being deported, like there's a third world country existing today in today's day and age, and I got $1,000 to spend on a fucking laptop.
Yeah.
We're talking right now, but there's
I
people
bought a
hungry.
Chick-fil-A.
There's people hungry right now.
Yeah.
There's people fucking hungry.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, it makes our problem seem pretty minimal. I'm not shitting on you at all.
No.
I want you to feel better because I saw you as my son feeling bad for me, and I was like, oh shit, you should never feel that, bro. Ever.
No,
ever.
I mean it's not.
And
so
it's good.
It's not
good
so much that.
Yeah,
but it's
and
just like
my parents don't even live in this city. I never even get to see them.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I still get to see him, man. And I know. I'm just saying, like, at the moment, like it was
it was a big change of lifestyle.
It was a change, but it was also like if anything, a defining moment for myself, because I told myself, like,
this shit's happening.
I was like, dude, there's so many more people who have it like much worse, and I was equating it to like, oh, they just don't have a lot of stuff. But no, it's not that. They just literally have to be apart all the time, and it's people who are like working from the ages of 12 and above and getting here illegally to try and make some money for their
But not
family.
everybody does that. For
So,
example, my grandfather grew up from nothing. Like, he was fucking given away when he was a child, and the guy fucking made a taller, like working with tires and shit. Yeah, an auto shop. And he made success, man. He left his kids a fucking piece of land and shit like that. And but shit,
well,
my dad's still living off
my dad got there with nothing.
What I'm saying is that happens everywhere.
Well, I mean, so like my dad got there with nothing, and just as a little update, he got there with nothing. His
but you say that, but he had all the expertise and knowledge of whatever profession he had been doing.
No
here.
material stuff is what I'm saying.
Right,
Like, the if you were talking hierarchy and needs kind of thing, like I would say, like, yeah. Like,
but so did my
like nothing
18, 19-year-old friend.
Yeah, right. So, but what I'm saying is, like, now, like, he got there with nothing to his name. We'll say it that way. He had nothing to his name. And when now he's actually been working, he's got a new job, he's continuing his education, and just recently they just started moving into a new place, man. So my mom's joined them. So
sounds like things are turning around.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, right? But that's the that's the thing. I wasn't. So the point of that story, just to kind of like realize, because I really want you guys to understand it. We were talking about the whole like consumption thing and how easily I've been kind of conformed to like equate the value of something to someone to literal, monetary shit. Like I say, like, oh, that costs more, they must feel more for it, and I was just not making that, I guess, connection.
It's all everything's at your pace. Sense, we all got to work at our pace, man. So we all got to work at our pace. So
that costs more. So it means
he's just looking at a world.
My kids cost me nothing, and they're the most important thing in my life.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is like that's I guess the idea of like the people who are like stuck in that consumption mode. Right. So
yeah, there you go.
I don't know how I got to that.
But ultimately, the idea
I don't want you getting back. I felt so much sadness in you, man.
No, man. Because it's a sad story, man. Regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, I still picked it up.
My dad fucking got
I still picked it up as much as I could to be able to help my parents whenever I could, by taking food and stuff, and I organized a fundraiser for him and all that kind of shit. So. It wasn't like I'm not entirely like sad about, but like reminiscing. And not only that, reminiscing and remembering the feeling at that moment, like raw, like
my takeaway from it is that like if nothing is being done, because I don't know, like really nothing has been changed, and I'm saying in the sense of policy, right? Like that's what I'm talking about specifically in that aspect.
Yeah, because that is bullshit.
You know what I mean?
Father had no. Okay,
like I'm saying, there's a remedy to that, to where like. The need to deport, like in that specific case, may have been just a failure of the current system we're living in, right?
Well,
and there's the faculties.
He won the case. He won.
That's what I'm saying.
He won the cancellation. I know that,
and that's what I'm saying.
And they went back and appealed and were like, I don't think you should do that. And then they fucking changed it up. and my dad got deported because of the appeal process. But a judge had already ruled and decided that my dad's cancellation of deportation went through and won, and so he was already home when they announced that they were appealing it.
So it sounds like a technicality. Some
we
other
wouldn't say
judge or a
technicality,
lawyer
it's just,
filed.
You know what they literally told us, and this is how real the politics are here. Because I think a lot of people don't understand that as a border town, you're always going to be a politically charged, like area, regardless of how much you hear about it. Because other places are probably talking about the importance of Laredo because of that kind of stuff. But my dad was literally told, the decision for your case, as coherent as it is, and as in my right mind right now, the decision for your case, as coherent as it was at that moment when it was made, is also the decision for many other cases. So most of those other cases that we want to keep deported, we want to maximize as many people being deported as possible. So because we don't want your case to set precedents over all the other cases, we need to appeal that, and we need to fix it, because that needs to, judge, that was an error, because all of a sudden if he grants that shit to him, he's going to grant it. He's going to have to do it to the next couple of people.
That's a technicality. Yeah. That's not fair if we only use the faculties of our point of view from this moment on. It goes back to the I know how to put gasoline in a car. I know what putting gasoline in the car is. I just can't find the hole to put it in. Doesn't mean that I'm missing I'm not unintelligent. Yeah. I need to be shown the way. Someone can help you. This is gonna work. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that have balanced out from this. Apparently, the things that you're talking about, all these wonderful things that have come out of it, self-realizations for you, perhaps even increased contact between you and your parents, a frequency of contact that wasn't there before. Many things. We don't want to. This is the problem where we look at the politicians. The politicians they're not better than us. They're the employees of our corporation. If we don't like them, we got to go and vote. So if we're all Americans in here, that's our ticket. We got to vote, and we have to encourage other people that may align with us in certain policy, which is a word, to vote with us based on critical thinking skills. That's why going to high school is important. That's why taking classes in college is important, because it lets you use your critical thinking skills, your reasoning ability with people that have a completely different opinion, and you have to convince them using your argument.
Or not convince them, or let them be their own.
Sure.
That's fine.
But you can't use violence. In a classroom, you can't beat somebody on the head and say, hey, ¿qué onda, chapete? You have to use a convincing argument and persuade them. And, I mean, we got debate champ over here. We got Mr. Speaker over here. We got man that I haven't spoken to in a long time over here, but well thought out with the words. I mean, we all have all the tools we need. We don't need to look any further for those things, especially on the internet. It's just going to be a distraction. It's a toy.
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, so when we initially started this episode,
Bob Lazar, we had an agenda. I almost worked at Los Alamos National Laboratories. No I went somewhere else, but jeez. What can you do?
And so going back to what I was thinking, or the reason why I even wanted to have this conversation is because I don't know, man. What do you really make of the whole thing, right? We've got.
Well, it's fake. It's 90%, 99. I mean, what you see out there is totally fake. I already told you.
Yeah, but I want to hear what Roger has to say about it. How do you feel about that?
Talk to me about Pliny the Elder. Talk to me about the Harvard classics.
Not yet.
How do I feel about what specifically?
Extraterrestrial intelligence.
Y'all heard about France?
Oh, dude, I'm all about France. Marine Le Pen.
Like, no, well, France, like, I'm literally on the site. Like, France has, like, all of their UFO cases, like, public for the open. And they're set apart. Like, in A is, like, phenomenon that was, like, completely identified. Like, for example, that was a fucking airplane.
Yeah.
You idiot. And then B is, like, shit that they haven't. 40% of the cases are on that. That's 1,095 of them.
Is that credible? That's not InfoWars, is it?
No, it's not InfoWars. It's literally like the fucking French government.
I'm just playing.
Oh, my bad. And then you got C
InfoWars is the only
that are cases that are inexplainable, and then D are like phenomenons that is non-identifiable. And then I don't know, man. I just went on a trip. Like when I saw the A, it's like all the cases that are.
I'm telling you,
100% identifiable.
What's your?
You don't believe it, Roger?
Like
you don't
7
believe in
cases.
No,
ETI?
I do. I think what I was gonna say was because just to go back to Josh's question, is it was like, hey, y'all heard about France?
It's in relation to the topic.
Many countries other than the USA until just recently.
Let
Many
me hear-
countries
these guys
they do
post
publish
pictures.
their data.
Post pictures.
Yeah, man. It's because shit. I'm always conflicted with this kind of information. This is gonna sound a little bit ignorant, but I'm always conflicted with this kind of like talk because I feel like if I were to abandon the peace that I feel right now, like that whole ignorance is bliss kind of thing. If that peace that I feel right now, if it were to be disturbed, if I was to adopt one of these other truths,
it's like believing in ghosts or demons and shit like that.
Yeah, but I mean, it depends on your perception.
Do you think we're like the most like? Is there? Could there be
other planets
not me.
with
people like us?
Or
not us specifically.
Not looking like us.
As a race.
As a race.
Do I
having
think,
a podcast.
Do I think
dolphins are more intelligent on planet Earth?
Them whales.
You don't.
Yes.
You don't think? Wait, what were you saying?
I just said dolphins are more intelligent than any being on the planet.
So
and they have more than 5 senses.
I think
they have more than 5 senses.
I think there's definitely more more extraterrestrial life and intelligent life in whatever plane we're currently on. So that's what I want to find out before figuring out the next one. I want to find out who else is here with us, who else is playing that game.
Yeah, and even like if the fucking phenomenon of like the UFO was at one point like an actual thing that was happening with, you know, things that were from not here, and then there was probably like a moment in time to where once we got our hands on that tech and figured out how to use it, now it just means that there's new possibilities, right? It doesn't always necessarily have to have like a negative effect.
Well, Bob Lazar gets like checked by that guy with the you know, the rifle. He's like, don't touch the craft. Like he talks about it in the JRE. He talks about where he first gets there and he walks in and he like grazes his hand across the spacecraft.
And he sees a U.S. flag on it.
And then the U.S. flag. He's like, oh, it's just a you know, I call it a submunition vehicle. I mean, because in the Air Force, there's a Air Force, you know, you've ever worked for the DOD or anything, you see there's magazines that are not available to the public and you can see them and they actually have like these vehicles in there and like you're like, oh, okay, like that looks like Star Wars. And but so the this guy touches it and then like the armed guard is like, keep your eyes forward, do not look at anything. And you know, they're walking him in and it's like your first day on the job, you got to spend hours going from one building to the other, filing paperwork. It's the 80s, it's 1982, so he's filing paperwork. I mean, it's not, there's no computer. It's government, so they're not going to transmit something on the computer when the Russians can steal it, or the Nicaraguans or whoever's monitoring with microwave bursts. They can steal the info. Info is free in the air. It's like, it's free. So, I mean, come on. We talked about John McAfee. You know, that guy, he knows a lot about stuff.
So you mean to tell me the guy that ate shit on the bottom of a hammock is out here almost getting assassinated?
Dude, that guy is the
website.
I'm telling you, I didn't get to telling you, but this guy, like, he puts the soap in this hand. In this hand, he's got his pistol, and then he switches hands, and he never is without touching a pistol.
But
this guy is on fire.
I acknowledge this guy. Like the
saying?
moment you started saying, like, does he really like that? This guy was like, man, hold up.
It was real shit because there's like a fucking documentary about it.
John, there's a documentary about him.
2020,
don't watch the
Am I looking at the wrong?
I'm going to show you. Look, let me just read this thing. Look, my platform contains one item. How do we free ourselves from a government that no longer serves us, but instead has become our master, controlling our every action down to the detail of what we may or may not put into our bodies and minds?
I got the details on that documentary.
Our two-party system created a voting process, which is an illusion, and a government that fluctuates between two extremes, each extreme annulling any progress made by the opposition, which I believe they're both going towards the same progress.
Can you think about this? Imagine this motherfucker.
Is fucking John McAfee.
That documentary,
that's what I say. Okay,
that documentary is inaccurate.
Cannot fix what you cannot see. Do not ask me about immigration, foreign relations, education, etc. I have no idea. Those claimings that they do are lying to themselves, or if not, they're purposely lying to you. Because it's a fucking truth.
Okay, but now imagine this guy.
I'm voting for that nigga, but
imagine this guy saying all of that like on a big ass podium, fucking slapping the fucking thing Hitler style and shit. That whole rhetoric sounds fucking completely different in that sense, right?
Like it was so intense, dude.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit,
like, yo, dude. I was
dude. John McAfee had the whole Belizean army chasing him. It was like
what I want to know is why
thousands of armed men coming after him
because he developed internet security software.
No,
why?
No, because he was working on a cure for cancer. Man, this guy was on fire, dude.
So
he had laboratories in Belize. He was a rich.
Can I get a straight answer from someone right here?
But isn't it that
is this John McAfee, the dude behind the internet security thing?
Like somebody broke into his crib and he killed them and
that's hit them in the 1980s. We're talking about the guy in the 1980s that started tinkering with computers and decided, oh, you know what, I can
computers?
Break into computers. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the computer virus scandal in the 80s, but it was big.
It still is, dude. You'll get people that'll freeze your computer with like, hey, pay me Bitcoin or
back then it was, you know, I mean, my dad worked for the Laredo National Bank and there weren't computers back then. They were reel-to-reel machines. And then somebody brought a personal computer in from IBM, and they were like, this is going to change the world. This is the future. And all the big dudes were like, nah, hombre, that's puro pedo. I mean, come on, dude. Like, you think the puro pedo guys really won? Like, the personal computer's in our pocket right now. We all have
and what I'm saying is, so this
McAfee, that's the McAfee that we're talking about. President. Yes, but he's just there to siphon votes.
Fucking make sure.
He's only there to siphon votes.
And that's what I'm saying. Why lend credibility to that?
He's not there for...
Well, talk about Tulsi Gabbard. Let's talk about Tulsi Bernie Gabbard. Sanders.
For the benefit of who?
Bernie, he honeymooned in the communist USSR.
Who fucking cares, dude?
His first job, he was 48 years old, you know, with his first job. I mean, this guy's worse than...
Is he, though? Like, we don't know... The facts, right? Like,
we do know the facts. I mean,
no,
here's a fact.
You know information from sources, but I choose not to subscribe to any one of the pictures that is painted by people, right? Just because I don't know them personally. I feel like in order to make like a valid judgment like that, I would have to meet him and then be able to tell, like, you know what? Yeah, this guy fucking. Because even in the event,
look, let's just chill out.
Even the event
because
that, like,
we're all friends here. But
exactly,
if I'm just stating my if you want to be a socialist, you know,
opinion. But that's my point. Where it's not necessarily socialism.
If you want to be a socialist, are you gonna pay my bills in my house where I live in Regency?
I don't know, because I'm not saying I want to be a socialist.
Are you gonna pay my bills? I'm gonna charge my bills to you this month.
Why?
Because you're the one talking about socialism.
But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is like,
I'm charging you next month, dude.
People's perspectives, like, right? Like, so what? Because we're so married to one idea that this is the end all.
Let's go back to the idea of the individual is more valuable
before we
than
jump
the group.
into that, though, I want to like complete my thought before we jump into that. Right? So if we're married to one fucking idea that this is the right way to make a society, that's already the version of the society we're living in.
It's in the Constitution.
That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is, I suppose, the economic climate that we've created currently, right? Or the set of ism that we choose to subscribe to,
well,
right?
Remember, we have to deconstruct this for your listeners, the people that are watching. There are so many variables that create this environment. The media is one of them. I sent that Project Veritas video to a relative. They said immediately, oh, Google says that James O'Keefe is not credible. I don't believe what you just told me. The videotape shows the Google executive saying we have to prevent
You're derailing my thought, Rick. God damn it. I'm sorry. I was just trying to get my point across.
What I'm telling you is that the media...
I understand.
The media...
I understand.
...controls...
Okay, let me get my point across is what I'm saying.
Can you do it without the media.
That's what I'm telling you. Like I don't know, right? Because we're living in that version of reality right now. So all I'm saying is that this is the only thing I do know is that I don't know a lot. You know, like I know who I am, and that's about it.
That's Aristotle, right?
Okay, so now
is that Aristotle?
To have the capability of being flexible enough to understand that different points of good aspects of certain societal constructs can be blended into something that is better if you look at an amalgamation of all these things is what I'm getting at, right? Like, let's not sit here and say, oh, capitalism, socialism, democratic socialism, whatever. It's like, let's sit down and see how we can use what we already have and build upon it, not destroy what we already have.
Let me ask you a question. I like what you said. I'm with you. I'm on your side.
Yes, I know we are. And I'm just trying to complete my thought to get my point across. I know just to...
Because I'm a million miles per hour.
100%. And then that's the only reason why I'm stating that, to kind of clear my point across as to why I feel that I don't necessarily agree that just either Tulsi Gabbard is this or Bernie Sanders is that, right? We can only go by like the actual actions that have been. And if you look at the track record of both of those individuals, they have a fucking history, and we can't ignore that.
Well, right now, we have to be able to get specific about that. Are you going to a government website and actually looking at the way Bernie Sanders voted in his voting?
I'm listening to him speak on open platforms.
We need to see
him speak on open platforms.
That's what the sounds sound like. We need to see what his voting record is. When you asked me once, you sent me a text about what did you think of Beto O'Rourke? A year ago, maybe a while back, you sent me a
long time ago,
and then I wrote to you immediately. I wrote to you.
It's just more of the same.
I wrote to you immediately what I thought, that he was a shill for the Democratic Party. Why did 100%. I say that? Because I watched with my eyeballs his voting record, and I studied it, and I went through the data. A lot of the things that I say isn't because I feel this way. It's
100%. I understand.
And,
now,
but my intuition tells me that only the true descendant of Eleanor of Aquitaine will rise in 2020. So let's find out what their genetics are. I bet you there's people out there in your audience that have microbiology, molecular biology degrees.
That would be fucking crazy. If DNA you do message me, let me have you on the show and
DNA
let's talk about
sequencers are so they're so 1980s. Now it's all
Rick,
like
all I'm saying is
fast.
that okay, so I understand what you're saying in the sense that media is skewed, right? But I don't consume my media from mainstream media. Or do I get my news from mainstream media? I basically hardly ever get that much news, right? So I'm explaining why the way that you write off when I say Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders.
I didn't write you off.
No, not me. The individuals that they represent and the reasons why I
Tulsi Gabbard until she opened her mouth and said something about she wants to take away the Second Amendment. I drew the line right there.
Okay, yeah. Again, and that's
but I don't want to be funding terrorist states. I don't want any of my paycheck money going to Israel for who knows what. Okay. I don't want any of that stuff. And Tulsi Gabbard is one of the first people that did that.
Talks about all of that, and that's why I'm saying
I challenge you to find any one of your peers who is so confident in what they say. They will immediately quit their job and stop participating in the United States economy to prove their loyalty to what I'm saying. I challenge you. Find somebody that will
now I don't know what we're talking
everything.
about.
I'm talking about if you don't want to fund terror, be homeless, don't get a job, don't work in America.
But that's the extreme.
Yeah. Oh, well, I challenge you to find somebody like that.
Why? What's the point? We don't need to go that extreme. We just need to take a good look at where the policy lies.
So that's where you and I have a difference. I only believe in the extremes. I just revealed a belief. I believe in the extremes.
So you don't work?
What did I say? No, I do. One God, one being. That's a radical extremist belief. There's only one being. That's a radical belief. I mean, you've got people all over the place. What are the people in India, that land of 10,000 gods? Are they going to tell me that there's only one God? I mean, come on. There's people all over the world. So my position is an extremist position.
I don't know as an extremist.
I
there
am.
you go. And all I'm saying is that I'm not that extreme, and I feel that there's like answers that could be worked out amongst people because we're all people.
And I don't believe that there is. I believe that the ideas can only be taken to their total final conclusion.
There's only one truth.
We will be captivated in that tornado. So if we go down you have to go. If we go down the line of partial socialism,
let me fucking take a quick break here because I really need to use the restroom. Let me wrap up this thought.
If we go down that line, we're never gonna undo it.
All right. So as I'm gonna let Josh take care of the rest of this. And I would like to say. First off, thank you guys for being on the show. Right, this is just from me, not from Josh. Josh is going to continue his thing because it's also I know he wants to kind of do a little anniversary thing for it. So it's the same way he brought it in, the same way he'll bring it out. Congrats, dude, on episode 100.
Yeah, 100.
Josh, fucking good, fucking great job.
We're all a fucking part of it, dude. I wouldn't be able to do any of this without any of y'all. So
man, I appreciate you bringing me along for the ride, man. So I look forward to what this next year is gonna bring us together. So
it's gonna be one interesting year to say the least.
Yeah, man. So thank you guys for having me on the show. I'm gonna.
Do you work early tomorrow?
Do I what?
Do you work early tomorrow?
No, not super early.
All right, go for it.
But what's it called? What was I gonna say? Mic drop tomorrow. That's it.
Yeah, the mic drop tomorrow at Cultura Beer Garden. Sign up starts at 9. Get there on time. Enjoy some music. Who's playing this week?
Her name is Andy. She just goes by Andy.
She just goes by Andy.
She just goes by Andy.
Yeah.
And, I've seen her play once before at Flip Flop. And she's pretty good.
What would you?
We were talking about like some
genre.
I guess just like acoustic stuff.
Acoustic set type of deal, so something chill. All right, so just in any situation, pull up and hang out at the mic drop tomorrow. Roger's gonna be there. I'm gonna try to
where's
go.
that at?
It's at Cultura, the upstairs portion.
Dope.
Friday, I'm playing with my band on at House of Whiskey.
Yes.
So Friday night we got 3 sets there. It's a
nice.
cover band, 80s cover band.
Pull
So
up on
I
Rick.
didn't know
you guys,
you were in an 80s cover band.
there you go. I'm
All right,
in an
guys.
80s cover band.
Thank y'all very much.
Hey, it was good to see you, Roger.
Peace. Take care, baby.
See you soon, man.
Yeah.
Keep your head up. No, but in any case, the fucking mic drop, ladies and gentlemen, it's very fun. I've been going up on the stage myself, just trying to do my thing, just for the fucking lulz, I guess. But it's interesting, man. It's difficult because I fuck around so much with like my friends in our regular conversations that we just crack up at the most idiotic shit. But then when you try to be funny deliberately, like it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
I was like on stage like this last time. I was like, fuck. Do I even want to keep doing this? But I do want to keep doing
this.
Yeah. Like it just as like a purely like I want to just try it out.
I want to hear one of your jokes.
Fuck.
Come on.
I don't know. I'm not like in the fucking
See,
stage
that's
mode,
what
bro.
he just said. He just said that when you like want to deliberately be funny, you can't. Like,
right? Like you just go on stage and say fucking weird shit. Or
I wouldn't know what to say. I think you
but look, going back what we were talking about, I don't think that there's any form of socialism that is not going to lead to an extreme outcome.
That's why, and I'm saying the solution isn't any archaic version of any one of the isms that we currently understand, but an amalgamation of the right properties of each of the ones that we already know.
I believe we're in
something new.
We're in the perfect country right now. We're in it. We're in the country that
to a
gives
certain extent,
all of us,
and I agree, because it allows for the room for improvement. We are in the perfect country,
and it's in the founding documents.
Correct. So that's why I subscribe to that. To where even though I understand that there are powers that be, ultimately in the own rules that they've set up, they set it up in a way that we can cede power from them.
But when we're looking at
forcing
people like
our opinion collectively, because we outnumber them.
Robert Byrd, longest sitting senator, KKK member, Grand Wizard, whatever rank he was.
Damn, I wonder if like he played D&D and shit.
So when we look at these things, or Joe Biden that is now in the news because he's there's pictures of him and he's bragging how in the 1970s he worked with another grand wizard of the KKK in his and he Cory Booker just got on the news for saying that I demand that Joe Biden apologizes for saying that the word boy and the negative connotation it has for Black Americans. These things, this is what we're seeing right now, unfortunately, is the most extreme version of the left wing. Remember, I sent you that picture of the Gaussian curve, how the right wing hasn't changed. The left wing has moved farther out to the fringe. I sent you the picture of the Gaussian curve. This is Pew Research data. An ordinary right winger has not changed. A center leftist has not changed. It's the new left has changed. So anybody that was just an ordinary right winger, conservative constitutional American that believes in conservatism means that you believe in the values and the principles of the Constitution. It doesn't mean that you like to count your beans. You're not conserving beans. You're conserving the principles of the Constitution. That's what conservatism means. And so these people haven't changed. It's the left that has changed. They're pushing us farther, so that makes us look far right, but none of us have changed. And
yes,
don't forget, I mentioned the movie when it was me and your cousin at the mile one, the movie by Dinesh D'Souza. I don't know if you ever saw it, but I saw it at the
I haven't seen
Death of a Nation. I saw it at the mall. I mean, I was the only one. The lady looked at me like, ¿Qué, mijo? You know, I was like, one for Death of a Nation. ¿Qué? You don't want to see Avengers? So, you know,
definitely saw Avengers. By
so, in Death of a Nation,
was that before? Huh?
In Death of a Nation, he before, yeah. In Death of a Nation, Dinesh D'Souza clearly lays out the big switch that happened. Most people don't consider Adolf Hitler a left winger, even though he was.
What was that movie you saw?
Death of a Nation. It was written by Dinesh D'Souza. Like, yeah, it just came out in the theaters. Yeah, so Dinesh D'Souza, like in case you don't know who he was a man that was imprisoned by Obama for misfiling campaign contributions. He incorrectly contributed to a campaign, a United States campaign that a politician was running. So he went to prison for that. Doesn't happen to people like Alejandra Sandy Cortez from Westchester, New York. Really
She's
rich
done the
girl.
same thing?
Oh yeah, totally. Ilhan Omar. Doesn't happen to her.
Get this, dude. The whole political game is based on things like that. There's fucking PACs and super PACs, which is just groups of fucking like. That's the whole fucking game.
And it's based on your emotion. And what I was telling you about identity politics. So
they play to your fucking base.
Vote for me because of what I look like, who I look like.
You know, like the whole thing that now people are like.
Vote for me because I'm a woman.
Yeah, that
like
or
that
like
Beto
don't vote
O'Rourke
for me.
shit.
Yeah.
Yes, Beto O'Rourke. People. There were somebody in Beto was at a campaign rally.
Not that you don't already know.
He went to go take a leak.
Just as like a fucking.
Check this out. Beto was at a campaign rally, went to go take a leak, and then some dude. They're in the restroom together, and the dude's like, "Are you here to see Beto?" And Beto's like, "Yeah." And so, you know, like, these people, a lot of the people don't know who they look like. I mean, we could all agree that all of us knew who President Trump was before he was Trump. Dude. It's a 80s cover band. You know, we're doing a lot of the songs, like our lineup, like Bryan Adams, Rick Springfield. We've got The Outfield, The Romantics. You know, we've got the hits.
What made you like want to go towards like an 80s cover band?
Well, I've always been a bass player. You know, I've always played the bass. True. I mean, when you hear the Matamoros music, that's like more of the fun stuff that I do. But I'm actually a bass player. You know, I'm from a musical family, and my family goes back into the 1700s.
For like the demo that I fucking have exclusive.
Yeah.
What did you find your inspiration from? Because I felt myself when I listened to it. How long? Okay, wait. Let me backtrack.
A lot of it comes from movies.
Yeah, and how long ago did you release it? Like, or did you record that?
That was just I sent you some songs. It was a variety,
CD,
so I had sent you like some 2015.
Oh, so they're just from all over.
2007. I sent you like 3 years worth of songs. So 15, 16, 17, and 18. I think is what I sent you.
And you know what's crazy is like I listen to them and
they change, right? Like they're different.
They're dope because I feel like it's the type of music that I like to listen to. And it's fucking funny because I was having a conversation with people that I work with about how I'm very like, oh my fuck it, your taste in music is bullshit. What I listen to is like good music, you know what I mean? But then I'm like, my music is mostly like fucking, you know, wordless instrumentation, and I'm just like, in my mind, jamming out like fuck yeah, you know what I mean?
It's music should be fun. Like we should all have fun when we're listening to it. It's designed to help us understand. I mean, it was developed by Neanderthal sapien, right? So we're the sapien Neanderthals are the first people that actually developed music over 200,000 years ago.
Do you like normally listen to lo-fi and stuff within your selection?
Oh no, I watch movies, and so when I'm watching movies, like one day I was watching a Chuck Norris movie called Code of Silence, and so it's got this amazing like. It's like 1980 something, so it's all 80s, and it's got like this awesome like funk like in the intro, like an awesome like horns, and it's Chicago, so it's like the big city, and it's like crashing sound into you, and I'm like, I want to play that. I want my music to sound like that. So I get on my Akai MPC, and it's an old MPC. It's from 2010, so it's a standalone, no computer, so it's a full blown machine. It's like on the advertisement, it was the big brother of the platinum hit maker. So I said, I'm going to buy the double platinum hit maker. Boom. So I bought it, and it was $2,000, bought it. And I was like, yeah, I don't need a computer for it. You don't need, all you got to do is just, I brought a thing cause I figured you had a computer. I wanted to download a file that my nephew emailed me, and I don't have email. I don't have a computer at my house. So I said, maybe Josh has it.
Yeah, we'll get you.
And my little nephew, I got to say, my little nephew, he's got several bands. His name is Klesh. You can check him out on YouTube. Klesh. He's better than me with his music, but he always says, "Oh, Uncle Ricky, I just drag files." Like, so,
yeah.
You know, and me, my saying from when I was his age was, "I just play the bass." And so, like, we all have our little sayings, and he has his saying. It's like, "I just drag files."
What have you been listening to lately, bro? Picasso.
I've been tripping out at all the gangster rap that's going around, man. I feel like
the trill,
it's making a resurgence, or
it's
what?
tripping, man. I just don't know. No, I feel like they're just trying to control the masses, man.
That's interesting that you say that.
It's the
like,
message to everything.
Because it's like we're coming to this, we're all one sort of deal, and it's like, nah, let's just keep pushing this gangster rap, so they keep killing each other and keep hustling, and keep getting themselves locked up in jail.
Interesting.
Keep saying all these offensive things.
Did you listen to fucking the Beast Coast album that dropped?
No, I did not.
So it features on there like Joey Badass, Underachievers, fucking Flatbush Zombies all together, and like Pro Era and shit. And you know, like back, well, I mean, I don't know if we were both like listening to it at the same time, but back when we kind of stumbled across this shit, what was the content of most of the shit that they were saying? Like very, very like quote unquote woke shit, right?
Right.
And then like this new album,
like there's something
like,
yeah, but you go woke, physical. You go broke now. Like,
yeah,
so
exactly.
You know, that's like what people
so
say on the internet.
They're like, I don't know. I still fuck with the album. There's a dope ass song on there called Distance that is like super funky and wavy.
Yeah,
but
pushing that, man.
But you know, there's nothing like there's nothing like classical music or jazz music.
All of a sudden, Joey just
like and I'll hear him sprinkle in a little bit of that like here and there. But
J. Cole talks some cool shit.
Because you guys know that jazz is completely American. It's like the only music that was born and created in America. That's something that we have in America
which led to rock and roll and all that, right?
Rock and roll comes from other places. Rock and roll comes from England. Rock and roll wasn't born in America.
Wait, isn't rock and roll a product of the blues, which is the blues was born in like the southern area?
And blues isn't from America. So blues,
why not though?
No, jazz is the only music that was born in America. That's a fact.
I'm gonna fucking look this shit up.
You gotta look that up. Well, look, check it out. I took history of jazz at UTSA. That's what they taught us.
I took history of music at TAMU.
Well, my buddy,
that's why I'm like, what the fuck did
my buddy took history of rock and roll at UT, and they didn't teach you that at history of rock and roll. They didn't say, "Hi kids, rock and roll is born in America." So we, as Americans, it's kind of important if we need to recognize those things. So, you know, don't forget that.
I fucking looked it up right now, and again, fucking Google. What a piece of shit. So
yeah, Google says that Mount Everest is like the third tallest peak on the planet. So
music, blues, rock and roll, and country. American music, blues, rock and roll, and country.
That's because
so is that not true?
That's not true. No. And I don't know what search parameters you typed in there, but remember, James O'Keefe just proved that Google is totally bogus.
Okay, yeah, that's why I'm like,
Google's
fuck, music
totally
that was
bogus.
This is what I typed into Google.
Music invented in America.
That was created in America, right? And then the first thing that comes out is a fucking It's from Wikipedia.
Wikipedia is totally bogus. But don't worry. I mean, look, I took a class in the class that I took. It was a basic. I think there was like 100 people in the class. It's a survey course. But you have jazz is born in three
the only
cities.
reason that I'm stunned by it is because
New Orleans,
music is near and dear to me.
And Harlem. So jazz is born in three different cities. It's Chicago, New Orleans, and Harlem, and so you have the origination of the ragtime, the big band, and the swing, and the bebop. And when you fuse those together, you create jazz. The flatted fifth, all of that stuff, everything going from the 20s,
of the shit
30s,
that was popping off at that time
in America.
Correct.
So all that stuff, ragtime, bebop, those things,
which is terrible. You ever tried to listen to that shit?
No. Well, it's
I've listened to like old. I mean, I'm just like it. To me, my interpretation of it is just like I feel no like vibe from it.
Well,
it's just very like
that's okay.
No, not jazz. I'm saying ragtime,
the precursors,
and like
it's like the movie The Matrix. Like I'm sure we've all seen the movie The Matrix, but if somebody were to tell you to watch Dreamscape or Ghost in a Shell or
wait, which
the other
version
one
of Ghost in the Shell was
the first one, the 1990 Scarlett Jotetas is totally bogus. the
it was a good adaptation. I'm not that mad at it.
I like Scarlett Johansson, but I was in love with Major Kusanagi. I'm not gonna. She's not Major Kusanagi.
Did you watch like Ghost in the Shell, both of them, or no?
Dude, I watched the TV show and everything, man. Come on, like
there's an anime over it.
Dude, are you kidding? There's a comic book.
Dude, you know what fucking anime I picked up recently from just back in the past that I faintly remember? Fucking Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop.
I remember that, man. Shit. Yeah, I remember.
It's on some shit, dude. I was like, what?
Yeah, I never made it past like episode 2 or 3.
Yeah, I just like haven't kept up.
Yeah, no, I'm totally like Fist of the North Star all day long.
Fist of the North Star.
Yeah, Kenshiro.
I started watching JoJo.
I don't know what that is.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Okay, yeah. Well, Fist of the North Star. You guys got to watch that. 1984 to 1987.
Okay,
totally.
So what's that agenda?
Dude, that's like Mad Max. That's the post-apocalyptic world.
But what are they on? Like, I feel like
just a different version of history and shit.
I'm totally like waiting. Like, well, Fist of the North Star is set in the 90s.
It's very fascinating.
No, but why doesn't English literature incorporate like the fucking morals that incorporate?
Because it's a different culture, bro.
It's a different
it's this different area of isolation where people grow up a certain way, and it's like generations of those traditions.
You do know that, Picasso, that when Time magazine has a cover, it's a different cover in a different part of America than it is for another part of America. It's a totally different cover in a whole other country. Time magazine, you could have different issue, same volume, same issue, different cover. What we see on the surface is different for who we are. Now that our friend is gone, conversation is different. Only because of what we see on the surface. It doesn't have anything to do with our friend that was here. It's the surface. So what we see, what we visualize, since we're stuck in the physical reality, it's based on stuff on the surface. So we can't get around that.
I feel like samurai culture is super interesting just because of like the hard tenets that they have as far as
we got it like Ogami Ito and the Lone Wolf and Cub. I mean, like, so I love the 6 episodes of that from the 1970s, but there's a whole other manga where there's like 19 episodes.
Yeah.
There was a TV show. I've seen a few of those, and then there's the manga. Like Bruno, one of the guys that Roger mentioned, Bruno gave me a manga once for my birthday, and like it's intense. It's a little like, and it's got the whole story, and it's about a dude that was the chief executioner, and his family was from a lineage where they were samurai, and it's in I think it's like the 1500s, 1600s, and the shogunate is top of the world. They're the total rulers of Japan. This guy gets pushed out by another family that was vying for his position. He was always going to be executioner. His son was going to be executioner. His household was always going to be executioner. And another family comes in. They eliminate his whole house. They kill everybody, even the maids, everybody.
That's crazy as
They kill everybody except him and his son. They're praying in a little chapel that he set up for all the deceased warlords that he's had to kill, all the lords and the noble people that he's had to kill. And so he's praying for them because it's his job. His job, and it's his family honor. So ridiculous. And a friend of mine, a Japanese friend of mine, was telling me about how a guy I met in school was telling me about how, like, when these executioners would chop your head, they would leave the last flap of skin so that your head would just go like that, and it wouldn't roll on the ground. So they were extremely precise when they would use their sword. But this novel, this manga, it's amazing. And so I watched the TV show. Oh man, it was a go off after the TV show called Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman, which was from the 1960s, and it was sort of like awesome. Oh man, but that whole thing was like my thing, man, when I was after I started,
I feel like it called my attention most was when, and it's not necessarily like samurai culture, but just Asian martial art culture in general, was when I started listening to like Wu-Tang Clan, and they would incorporate all these samples of like
for sure.
fucking
I don't know, man. I trip out and like,
it
I
just
don't know.
sounds so
I just
cool.
feel like it must have been so sad being like the last of the samurais, man. Like, because it takes a lot to like, okay, boom, we're gonna fight with a sword, but then somebody comes in with a fucking gun, like he doesn't even work out or anything, and just bam, shoots you, bam. Fuck that. That
it
sucks,
might not.
Man.
You know what, Bob
That's
Lazar
what happened, right? Like the fucking shit progress, and we got.
I wouldn't doubt it, but in the 1500s, even Ogami Ito has a gun. His baby cart, his baby cart has a machine gun on it, and his little son is like one when they go off on their adventure after the whole house is assassinated. But like the little son has a little pedal, and like he'll put spikes, and the son is a killer too. I mean, because he tells his son, he's like, you can go with your mom. They dress in their white robes. They're gonna do the.
So I feel like the film that they made that's based off of this is quoted,
Shogun Assassin.
Yes, it's quoted totally on Jiz's intro to the Fourth Chamber.
And Shogun Assassin is a cut and paste of these 6 episodes that I grew up with. I loved these 6 episodes. I mean, Ogami Ito was like the super champ. I mean, there's episodes where the people are shooting him and with his sword, because Bruno Rendon can tell you he has the battle sword that can cut through horses' legs. It's like super metal. He's like chopping.
Is it this?
Yes.
Listen to this shit. You heard this shit. I've heard it too.
Yeah, but this Shogun Assassin is totally like Americanized. You gotta watch the Japanese stuff.
My words.
Yeah.
But you must choose.
But he takes his son, and they dress in the white robes, and he puts a little ball, and then he puts the sword, and he tells his son, the Ogami blood in you will decide what you want to do. If you want to be with your mother, choose the ball. If you want to be with me, choose the sun. He's saying this in his head, and we, the audience, we're able to hear, because we're behind the fourth wall. We're able to hear what the man's saying in his head. The son's just looking at him. He doesn't even know what the hell's going on. The son's just like, oh, I want to play with the ball. And the dad's ready to chop his son's head off, like, oh yeah, I'm going to kill you if you choose the ball. And the son like looks at the dad, and he feels the vibe. And this goes back to Bob Lazar and the gravitational force. These men are creating a force with their energy. And people that don't understand these things, they'll just tell you, oh, that's totally bogus. The lady Jen Janai is caught on tape. She's saying all this stuff about Google. That's a trick. She really didn't say those things. So that's what the people will tell you. They don't understand this force. It's real.
I want to keep going, but I have to take a major piss.
And it's late.
The hour grows late on this Wednesday evening.
Look, I had a great time, man. Thanks for inviting me to the 100, and I'm so glad to see Picasso, man. Because
that's crazy. Man. I think I've always wanted to see you since the first time I met you.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. Because I've been wondering too. I was like, and I would always ask Josh, like, what happened? Did I scare him away? Like, what happened?
Bro.
Like, and so I was like,
everybody got
thank you.
Motherfucking life.
Hey, well, it was a great show, man.
For real, it was really fun as fuck and super all over the place as I imagined it really would be. I managed to stay alive off of 3 hours of sleep and a couple of these.
Don't forget, Ilhan Omar married her brother. Keith Ellison is the district
all that wild
attorney general of Minnesota. He doesn't even have a law license.
Yeah, one thing I had in my mind, and I feel like you might have answers for me, just tripping, or you might not. It don't matter. But because today was about UFOs and shit like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I came in my mind with just one thing in my head that I know my friend Alex Pineda can back me up on. I was like 14. I was like 11, 12, 13. I hadn't done a single fucking drug. I hadn't done any fucking psychedelics. So I know I was fucking sober, and I know I was fucking like conscious 100%. We had just left a fucking basketball game, bro. And we were driving on the back of his mama's pickup truck. And it wasn't a fucking UFO, like a fucking disc, but on my mom and on my kids. Imagine an airplane. It's just a cross. Because if I say cross, you're going to say a fucking airplane is a cross, right? So, but flip it upwards. So, like, the tail is up the nose is down, and the wings are. So it's like a stand-up cross. And I'm seeing this shit hover right above my fucking neighborhood. And so basically, the cross is up and down, the wings are left and right, and what's up and down is just windows, and it's just hovering. And I told my friend Alex, I'm in so much disbelief, but I ain't tripping. I'm just like, yo, Alex, like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because that's not a fucking regular airplane that we see every fucking day. And my friend Alex goes like, yeah, what the fuck? Something to that effect. And to this fucking day, I'm sure I can walk up to Alex and be like, yo, what the fuck did you see? I remember going up to him, and he remembers that, but we just repressed it. Like, we don't talk about it because what the fuck?
Because it's crazy.
But that was that. It was like,
because we don't have a point of reference to say like, oh, look, that's
aircraft.
A bottle. This is a cup. This is a jar. We have a point of reference where we all understand what a bottle, a cup, and a jar is. If we start talking about floating windows and the cross and the this
advanced
and that,
aircraft
it's
are out
totally
there, right?
It's advanced aircraft are totally out there. But it throws us off on our ordinary perspective. So we no longer have the ability to say this is a cup because I know that a jar is not a cup and a cup is. So we don't have a way to visually cross-reference what we're looking at. So it is going to be unidentifiable to us. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's unidentifiable to the pilot or to the whoever's operating it. Now I do want to add that there are phenomena that we can see, we're able to see. Now, somebody asked me once, and they wanted to be there at the panel, but they weren't able to be there on at the Fourth Dimension stuff. So I want to say that I was traveling from Los Angeles to Las Vegas once in the year 1997, and so the whole family, my sister, my dad, and we've got my aunt and my cousin and this dude that liked my sister, and so it's all of us are inside a Ford Explorer and we're driving on I-10, cruising it through the desert. And then all of a sudden I kind of like look, I lean over and I'm like, oh wow, look at that. And like I'm rubbing my eye because I thought, oh, it's just the glare and the sun and the mirage and the desert, everything we're taught to believe. And no, the dot in the sky did not disappear. And I rubbed my eye again, and I said, oh my goodness, Dad, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And he says, yes, mijito, there's two suns in the sky. And I said, yes, Dad, there's two suns in the sky. And I said to my cousin and to my aunt and everybody that was there, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And so they all saw what we were seeing. And my friend had asked me, he was like, hey, I'm going to ask you about these two suns when I go to the panel, and that's going to be my question. And I said, well, okay, I didn't, ever get to talk to him that night, but I did see the second sun. People have often talked about the second sun on planet Earth. But what I did want to say that was the most controversial thing is that I don't believe that you can see it unless you have the proper genetics. So
who knows, man?
Respect it, Islamophobes.
Perhaps, maybe, I don't know.
That's just a saying. I don't know. That's a figure of speech. But I don't think.
Right,
and we go on with the.
I get what you're saying.
But we talk about the genetics. We talk about the genetics all the time. I don't know if I have good genetics, but all those people got to see it.
More minutes, but I don't want to.
Chihuahua, second sun. Look at it.
Yeah, look it up, bro.
You guys can see it. Okay. Goodbye. Wow, Josh.